All right. Welcome, everybody, to, this is the second show this week. The Xbox 2 podcast episode 341 is now live. And I'm being joined by, as usual, the one and only Jez Corden. What's going on, bud?
Yes, Corden. That's me. Hello,
That is you.
Rand Jez. How are
Yes.
you doing, my buddy? We're back on a Friday,
I know.
although we almost weren't on a Friday.
Yeah, you were like, we're going to do it on Monday again. And I'm like, I don't know, buddy. Like, we should try for Friday. I know it's a little difficult out there because you're back in the UK and family wants to hang out with you.
Yes,
It's weird.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, I was able to move things around, and we're here on Friday. And there's been quite a deluge of news this week, and talking points and things to discuss. So I'm pretty glad that we managed to pull together for today. But yeah, I've had a little nap. It's full on at work. It's Black Friday.
Yeah, that's
You're probably
right.
seeing on Windows Central socials all the deals we're having to post and all that kind of stuff. Keeps the lights on.
Next week is going to be busy. Are we going to do a show next week on Friday? I mean, Friday's the Black Friday. I'm saying, I
mean, we don't do it in Britain, so I'm down for next Friday.
So you don't do, yeah, but I'm just saying, aren't you guys gonna be posting all these links on Windows Central for people to buy stuff, or is Black Friday? Black Friday is pretty much already. I think Amazon's already running Black Friday stuff right now.
No. It went from being Black Friday to Black Friday weekend.
Oh.
So now it's Black Friday week.
It's like the whole week is now.
So it's the whole week now of Black Friday. So as long as I do my work during the day on Friday, yeah, we should be able to do a podcast. But yeah, it is full on at the minute. But you know, team's working hard, and I'm exhausted. I'm very tired. I'm not actually tired. Tired as in sleepy because I've had a nap. But I'm just exhausted. I just want a break. I'm just so desperate for a break. I feel like all I do at the moment is wake up and then work and then go to sleep.
How many?
You know that feeling?
So what was your day like today then? Before you did the show, you wake up, go to a couple meetings, more meetings, and then more meetings.
Meetings, then work. Writing. I woke up this morning at like 5 a.m. Because I was so wound up and couldn't relax. So I woke up at 5 a.m. and then I did a couple of articles that needed updates. Like one needed to be completely rewritten, and then because it's like an old review that needs to be updated. Like I'm rewriting a lot of my old reviews at the moment. Like like how you can't really review how the wear and tear on an Elite controller until you've used it for a long time. So I'm currently rewriting my Elite controller to be like, don't buy this. It falls apart.
Don't buy this. It falls apart. Yeah.
It fucking falls apart. So I'm rewriting that at the moment. And all that kind of stuff. And then I went back to sleep for a little bit. And I woke up again in the afternoon, had some meetings, did some writing. And then I thought, oh God, I got podcasting a bit. So I'm like super tired. So I thought I'll have a little nap before we do the podcast. Otherwise I'm just going to be yawning my head off to the good people of Xbox 2 community. So I've had a nap. I'm awake now, and I'm trying to unwind a little bit, but then I'm cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of stuff I've got to do over the weekend as well. It's just it's just the time of year, man. Black Friday is always super busy like that, because there's just so much competition. Like everyone's trying to find the best deals and share them out and all that kind of stuff. So it's the busiest time of year, and then like into December it should become more chill. But from what I'm hearing, there's going to be quite a lot of interesting news into December and into January as well. So
you got the Game Awards
in the Xbox world,
right? You got the Game Awards next month.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you saying? Xbox news next month? Interesting.
Yep, I do think so.
News? Yeah, but I mean, usually most people at Xbox take like the whole month off. Like usually Redmond is like a ghost town from usually like right after Thanksgiving until January. It's like most people go on vacation; they're barely there. So
Yeah, it does. It is often the case that like um the a lot of Microsoft does take a lot of time off during December, but from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of stuff going on in December. Obviously, we've got the Game Awards, and there's going to be a little bit of stuff there. I don't know if it's going to be like. I don't know if like like in previous years they've had like quite a lot of stuff there. Like they did the Series X debut at the
well,
Game
it depends.
Awards.
It depends. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff, like you mentioned, Hellblade 2 and the console. But then there was the 1 year, 2 years ago where they had nothing, and people freaked out. Only then find out that it was because Microsoft was doing their own show a month later, right, with the first
Yeah,
Dev Direct.
exactly.
And
So
did we? I'm trying to remember this past year. Did Xbox show anything at the Game Awards? Like I am having trouble
can't
remembering right now. I'm sure somebody in chat will let us know. What did Microsoft show, if anything, at the Game Awards last year? Because I can't. In my mind, I just don't remember. Oh, Blade. That's right. Blade was last year.
Blade, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there might be something small and low key, like a Blade, maybe at the Game Awards, or an announcement for. A lot of people think maybe Black Myth Wukong might be announced for Xbox at the Game Awards. I don't know what
and
they're
Hellblade
announcing at
2.
the Game Awards.
Hellblade 2 also had the it's like
Right,
gameplay trailer. I don't know, for some reason I was thinking of last year, and but how could I forget? How could I forget the infamous no Xbox logo on the Blade trailer and all the discussions that surrounded that?
Yeah,
how could
yeah,
I forget
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Or maybe it's just my mind just being like
blanking
it out or whatever. OD. Oh yeah, Kojima had a whole segment with director of Get Out. I don't remember it. My memory is failing me right now, but yeah, there's a whole segment with Kojima and OD.
So all that broccoli you've been eating, man.
Yeah.
It's bad for your memory. But yeah, I don't know how much there's going to be at the Game Awards for Xbox, but obviously chances are there's going to be a Dev Direct January or early February. Jordan Peele is the director.
Jordan Peele, there we go. Yes, great director. Great movies. Someone Sin says in the chat, Starfield for PlayStation probably get announced. No, not at the Game Awards. And if Starfield does come to PlayStation, it'll be end of next year essentially for the 2-year anniversary. If it does,
I'm working with like a very tentative rumor, and I say tentative. I emphasize tentative.
But be careful.
Yeah. I'm emphasizing tentative very, very hard.
Because as soon as you say this, it's gonna get clipped. It's going to spread all across the internet. They're going to post about it on r/gaming leaks and rumors, where they don't like you most of the time for your stuff, and I'm sure at plenty of other places. You got to be careful about these rumors, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
it's not a Windows Central article, so.
Yes, indeed. It's not a Windows Central article, so this is purely tentative for the sake of discussions. But I'm hearing that there might be a new accessory.
Oh,
maybe in
a new accessory
in December. Maybe even a new controller. Like, and I say this with the biggest grain of salt. It's like the sort of vaguest kind of whispers and rumors, but sometimes those whispers and rumors turn out to be something for real. So that's also what I'm kind of looking at right now. Could we see some kind of new controller in next month?
So you're saying like
maybe
an announcement?
I was thinking maybe it could be Flight Simulator controller or something like that, because Flight Simulator accessories are huge, and although the launch of Flight Simulator has been a bit of a disaster, which we're going to talk about in a bit, I was thinking maybe it could be a Flight Simulator controller or something like that. Or who knows? Maybe we could get lucky and it's Elite Series 3 with Hall effect sticks and haptics and all that kind of stuff. But such huge grain of salt here, like a huge pile of salt. I have this is like the vaguest of rumors, but
Paris said he's ready to tweet it out right now.
Nah.
Insider Jez Gordon says Xbox will 100% definitely announce some sort of controller during the Game Awards.
No, I don't know. It could even be something as dumb as a new color for the headphones, But there's some sort of, I've seen hints in the back end. There's some kind of.
They did just release a new headset, right? I think last month, and also new controller. And Xbox is always releasing controllers because it's one of the things they're good at.
Yeah.
And we do. I mean, people were wondering what happened to that leaked controller from the roadmap. You know, the one with the haptics and the handles, right? Sebel, I believe it was called. And also, I think there was like an elite controller as part of those leaks.
Yeah, Jodica said Monkey's Paw, it's the cloud Wi-Fi controller. I mean, it could be something like that, you know, a sort of a new regular Xbox controller that is more conducive to playing cloud games, reduce latency by connecting via Wi-Fi directly to the game instead of to the device, and then the device connects to the game, something like that. But yeah, I've got no idea. But I said that to illustrate the fact that even though, because someone said that there wouldn't be many shows in December, I was thinking like there's still some rumors and news floating and flapping around. So maybe we do have like a lot to talk about in December. There's games coming out in December. You know, we got Indiana Jones coming up. What else we got coming in December? There's something else.
I mean, I think they just announced Path of Exile 2 early access is like December 10th or 11th. I think that was just announced yesterday or today or something.
Oh, Path of Exile 2, yeah. I mean, man, am I gonna play Path of Exile 2? Like,
I don't know. It's probably better than Diablo.
Dude, I've fallen off so hard in Diablo. Like,
I mean, I'm not surprised.
You remember how hyped I was about it?
I mean, you have put a lot of time in Diablo, though. So, I mean, I wouldn't...
But this is the thing, right? It's like... But they've added so much new stuff to it. New content and new reasons to play and new systems and all that kind of stuff. But, like, it's so annoying how all of the cool armor, you have to buy it. There's like nothing to chase in the game itself except bigger numbers. So, like, I don't feel like I've got the incentive. And I'm just sitting there like, oh man, all of the cool armor, you can't earn it. You have to buy it, you know? So I'm just sort of like, when I compare it to World of Warcraft, where all the cool armor and mounts and stuff you can earn by playing, you can't do that in Diablo. It all comes from buying microtransactions. So I've kind of fallen off on it. But Path of Exile, you know, I haven't really played it that much. So I don't know. I don't know if I like Diablo or ARPGs. Right now, I think it's more that I like Diablo.
Stanky Boy in chat says, Jez falling off and not finishing a game? Big if true. And I said, name a more iconic duo than Jez and not finishing games.
Well, I've got like 400 hours in Diablo, man. I feel like I got my money's worth out of that game. And I bought the game several times. And
you bought like a fucking 12-foot tall Lilith statue that towers over you in your room.
I do love the statue actually. But do you know what I've been playing, Rand? You know what's taking my attention now?
What?
Genshin
Impact, yes.
Genshin Impact. So I am fully cooked now. I'm looking at my backlog. I'm looking at Call of Duty. I'm looking at Stalker 2, Dragon Age, and all those games. And now I'm just like, man, I just want to chill with these waifus, man.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Chill with these waifus, bro.
Yamaro Soy says in chat, why do reviewers give some games a pass on glitches and performance, like Spider-Man 2 and Elden Ring, and not to others, like Cyberpunk and Stalker?
That is interesting, you know, and one thing I've come to realize as someone who, I haven't reviewed many games recently just because as I climb the corporate ladder, funnily enough, less time to actually review games. But one thing I have noticed is that I'm a lot more forgiving of bugs and glitches than I think some of the reviewers are. Like, Cyberpunk had bugs and glitches, but I was like, the underlying game's amazing. And I can just sort of ignore bugs and glitches. Personally, as long as it's not something like a hard lock on the game or something that stops you from progressing, it doesn't bother me that much. But for other reviewers, it seems to bother them a lot when there are bugs and glitches. But like he says, some reviewers will give certain games a pass on bugs and glitches, but not others.
Because I think
not all bugs and glitches
are based
equal.
around on how much they love the underlying game. Right? Star Wars Jedi Survivor had a bunch of performance problems and glitches when it launched, but it still like launched to like an 86 Metacritic, but it was barely playable on PC at the time and had a lot of problems even on console. Like the performance mode on PS5 and Series X at the time was like awful. And it's because like the underlying game was so good to them that they couldn't find it within themselves to dock something or completely dock something that they really enjoyed. You notice that all the time in different reviews and stuff. Like you'll see reviewers sometimes complain about sometimes even complain about games reusing animations or being too similar to a game, you know, that developer may have released in the past. But then like that doesn't become an issue with FromSoftware and Elden Ring, which, you know, is kind of reused a lot of the Dark Souls stuff.
Or Monster Hunter.
Or like Monster Hunter.
We're using the same rig since PS2.
You know, in Cyberpunk's case, it's kind of was like, well, it was basically broken. It didn't run on the last gen. And there was that whole stuff about it. But yeah, I think it really comes down to how much like people really love what they're playing. Like if you love the game that you're playing, you're gonna forgive the slight annoyances of performance and bugs. But if you don't like it, then that exasperates the whole issue. Then it's just like, screw you, screw your game, you know. And
I had like, because people clown on me for my Cyberpunk review, right? But I had like a whole section in that review, like a huge section about the bugs and glitches I was having, right? And then I was just kind of like at the end, I had these issues, but it didn't bother me, you know, didn't fucking bother me. There are other games where like it can be really bad, and like if I was reviewing Stalker, I didn't review Stalker 2 for us, but my colleague did. He reviewed the PC version, but like I said to him, make sure that you talk about the dead zone issue with the Xbox, because one of the issues with Stalker 2, especially on Xbox, is that the dead zone on the sticks is set to 0. So like if you've got any sticks drift whatsoever, and every analog controller has stick drift if you've had it for like more than a few months. It's really sensitive, and your character will move by itself. Like you get these phantom movements. Most games set the dead zone to about 10 to avoid this issue. But clearly these devs are kind of like, they're new to console development, they're new to gamepads, they're a PC developer through and through. So like this is one issue that really slipped through the cracks, and I was even sending them feedback like during the review process. I was like, you've got to fix this dead zone issue because the game is screwed on pretty much every gamepad player right now. That includes PC gamers who play with the gamepad as well. And you'd be surprised how many of those there actually are these days. And there's more and more now that, you know, Steam Deck's a thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's you have to sort of watch how reviewers talk about bugs and glitches, and then decide, well, my feelings on a game align with this reviewer. This is the thing about reviews. Like everyone's got a different opinion, but I suppose there's also like people who've got an agenda, and if they want to, you know, fanboy over a particular platform, they'll ignore the bugs and glitches in a game associated with their preferred platform versus a game not associated with it. But I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is.
That does happen from time to time.
Jesse James says Jez is aging before our eyes. I mean, it's true. It's true, man. How long have we been doing this show now? How long have we been doing it?
We are in our 7th year of doing this, I believe.
Exactly. I was like our main reviewer back then. I was the person reviewing the most.
We started in the year the Xbox One X came out. So we started, that would have been 2017. So we started like April of 2017, if my memory serves. So 7 years. Next year would be our 8th. Which is kind of crazy to think about. You know? Like that going on this long. 7 years is a long time.
When I started, was I even an editor? I don't know if I was.
I don't think you were working at Windows Central when we started doing that. Were you still doing Xbox?
Was I on Xbox Mad?
Maybe. I mean, what were you doing 7 years ago?
Nah, I think I started at Windows Central. I was at Windows Central, but I think Xbox Mad was still going at that point. I think Asher. You remember Asher? Yes. Asher was running it.
Yes.
Asher was running Xbox Mad. I joined Windows Central, and I think I was just a writer there then at the start. But like over time, it's like I've gone from writing all the time and researching and playing games to doing more corporate stuff, stuff and more meetings and that kind of thing.
I'm gonna gotta give a shout out here Everborn Saga, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, the biggest Sonic fan on the planet. He's in the chat, and I just wanted to say, I saw the Sakana NPD release today, sir, and that Sonic game was number 10. It was like it was like all the new releases that came out that month. It was like literally the last of them. So I guess
That's not bad, is it?
I mean, maybe not necessarily, but it's just weird to see any game that released in October was higher than Sonic, and that Everborn's always going out there trying to claim, like, I think, was Everborn trying to say like Sonic was going to outsell like Call of Duty or something? I don't know. He was making some wild claims or something. I just remember because of his love for Sonic.
Oh, man.
And it didn't really. I mean, I know they said I think it passed 1.5 million sales or something, but man, to see there in the 10th position, number 10. Come on, Everborn, what are we doing here?
Why'd you have to bully Everborn like that, bro?
Yeah, because he deserves it for being a Sonic fan.
Is that the game where Shadow kisses the girl?
Yes, that is the game.
I wonder if they're gonna recreate that in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, the movie's supposed to, comes out next month, I think.
Yeah, it's got Shadow in it, right? Keanu Reeves is playing Shadow.
Yes.
That's badass casting.
That is pretty badass casting, yes.
But you got Jim Carrey. Who plays Sonic in those movies?
Roger Craig Smith, I believe, is the voice of Sonic.
I don't know that.
He's a very famous video game voice actor who
right.
does the voice of, I think, Chris from Resident Evil. I believe he does. I'm sure he.
Oh snap! That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure he does the voice of. I mean, I could be wrong. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Roger Craig Smith does the voice for Sonic. I'm probably wrong, right? Maybe he does it for the games or something and not the movie. I don't know.
Okay,
people are correcting me. It's Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz.
Why do I think it was Roger Craig Smith then?
I don't know. Man.
Or, yeah, I don't know. Keanu Reeves, though. Badass.
He's badass.
Anyways, I realized I didn't even introduce myself. I'm sure everybody knows. Randall Thor 19.
Yeah, we went off on a long tangent there.
The man with the million. It is what it is. Oh, Roger Craig Smith voices modern Sonic in the video games. Oh, okay. That's where I got confused then.
That's where you got confused.
I thought he was voicing him in the movies. Everborn Saga with the 199. Super Chat says, Sonic outsold Astro. That's all I know. Yeah, but Sonic was also on way more platforms, though. So
you're telling me multi-platform's the way to go?
I don't know. What would Astrobot have done if it was on more platforms? Would it have sold more than Sonic Everborn?
Yeah, but has Astrobot been the system seller with the kids? I don't know.
Anyways, let's do some quick housekeeping here. This episode of Xbox 2 is brought to you by Manscaped. Yes, Jez?
That's right, Rand. It's thanks to Manscaped that this podcast still exists after all this time. All right, fellas, the holiday season is here, and trust me, you don't want to be the guy showing up with tangled tinsel in your ornaments.
Is that funny? You find that funny when you put that in now? Okay.
So I thought it was funny.
You're very easily amused, are you? It seems.
I'm immature, okay? Luckily.
Quite so.
Luckily, our friends at Manscaped have got you covered from head to, well, down the chimney with the Beard and Balls bundle. Featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and the Beard Hedger. This bundle will make sure you're a gift worth unwrapping. Get ready for mistletoe moments and get 20% off and free shipping with the code XB2 at manscaped.com. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, Your ball's new best friend cuts through the North Pole of bushes with ease. Gentle.
Are you
Gentle.
good? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Gentle. It's just stop interrupting my flow. I'm a method.
You're
I'm a method
interrupting
actor,
your own flow.
Yeah, I'm a method
You're
actor.
constantly
here, Rich,
laughing at the things you wrote.
Your ball's new best friend cuts through the North Pole of bushes with ease. Gentle on your most delicate Christmas ornaments. 2 skin-safe blade heads for versatility, whether you're after a tidy trim or a smooth, festive finish. Light up the way with dual LED spotlights so you can see everything clearly, even in those tricky spots. Join the 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to stay sharp this holiday season. Get the Beard and Balls bundle today and slay your grooming routine. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code XB2 over at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code XB2 at manscaped.com. Because Santa isn't the only one who needs his sack well groomed this year.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video and podcast if you're listening on audio services like Spotify. I realize I can't say this video when there's a lot of people who listen on Spotify. So shout out to them as well. But yeah, Manscaped, awesome products, love them. The beard stuff's fantastic. I used it today again. The Chairman Pro, and all this stuff. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is for big, thick beards like my own, and it's just fantastic for just keeping it nice and neat and trim, shaving those sideburns down. Don't want to look like the Honky Tonk Man, to use a wrestling reference. No. Remember the Honky Tonk Man? No?
I do remember the Honky Tonk Man.
The 90s?
Yes.
Yeah, so keep all that nice and trim and smooth and proper. 20% off and free shipping if you use code XB2. And that's the Manscaped portion. Thank you very much to those guys. They've been very good to us.
We also have the wonderful patrons. Support us at patreon.com/XB2, which, if you haven't seen, we did an Xbox 2 +1 episode this past Wednesday, so 2 days ago, with Insipid Ghost of the Xbox Expansion Podcast. We talked about, Xbox and all the related things that were going on in the industry for an hour and 45 minutes. It was a lot of fun. You can check that out now. If not, if you don't want to, you can always just wait. It'll be available on Jez's channel sometime on Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. The question and answer thread is up for those that want to drop a question. We will get to those at the end of the episode. But right now, I'm going to get some of the shout-outs for the Xbox MVPs. We have iMike0, Tier, Shrapnel, Intermacine, James 93, Jay Peltier, Holy Dark Death, 09 C Mine, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Will Hernandez, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, For an Object, RS Donks, Randall Thor 19, Silas, James Moore, Fantasticals, Katriox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Asa T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Adam Bartolo, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And I think, as Jez would say, right now there's a sale going on the Patreon for 15% off. So
yeah, it's 15% off on Patreon, and we're actually looking at restructuring it and actually making it cheaper and stuff. So, if you come in at 15% off, then when we go into December, you'll have access to way more stuff.
Yes.
We've got some cool stuff planned for the Patreon.
So, you were in the news this week, Jez, from the podcast.
Oh, was
on
I?
Monday.
Why is that?
Because of the Fable stuff.
Fable?
Yeah,
What's that?
You know how hard and wide and far. I saw GameSpot wrote an article about you. People were making YouTube videos about you and your impressions of a trailer that you saw or footage that you saw of Fable. I think I sent you one of them. I've been like, look at this. and you were like, good, or whatever you said. But people really seem to be interested in your Fable stuff. So,
Well, hey, it looked really good. You know, what can I say? It looked really tight. Which is what you want, really, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think for me, what it was when they first showed off that initial in-engine trailer, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's pre-rendered. It's pre-rendered."
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. It's
And
not
that,
what it looks like. It's not what the game's gonna be. It's
yeah,
just,
and then they came back and like, no, this was in engine. But even in engine, like you can, you know, maybe it doesn't like look like that when it's actually comes to actual gameplay. But what I saw was definitely real gameplay, and it sort of did nail the vision of what I had in my head for what a more mature, modern Fable should or would look like. So, what I've heard though is that trailer,
Two-Toed
particularly,
Tom says, but did Windows Central write about it? No, they
yeah, it's a good
didn't.
point.
So, did it actually happen if it just didn't write about it? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I didn't have time. So that's
Well,
and then by the
I don't
time
know.
I did have time,
Here's the
it was
thing: is
old
like
news.
I'd be concerned for you because you typically, when you do that type of reporting, you get like you end up getting blacklisted from these studios. Poor Jazz,
blacklisted by Obsidian.
Blacklisted by Compulsion. Who's the next one?
Right.
You want to be blacklisted by Playground Games next?
Yeah. I mean, it's reporting's reporting. People want to go down that route, that's fine. I think what was important to me with the Pentiment stuff, I don't feel like I misrepresented the game. I don't feel like I misrepresented what it was. I called it a narrative adventure game. I never said it was going to be anything other than it was, and but it is what it is. That's part of the job.
Like when Josh Sawyer was
Jeff
pissed at
Grubb
you
would
because
say.
he thought you said
He's still
Pentiment
pissed
was a Disco Elysium, like a Disco Elysium game, when you said it was like a
Yeah, I never said
narrative
that. I
murder
never
mystery
used
or something.
Yeah, I said it was
like
a
Jeff
narrative murder
Grubb that
mystery.
said that it was a
Disco Elysium.
Disco
Yeah,
Elysium
it was never me. I never said it was a Disco Elysium. Because I've never played Disco Elysium, so I wouldn't liken it to a game I've never played. Because then it'd be like, well, I don't know if it's like this. But even the Disco Elysium comparison, I mean, that is a narrative first kind of game. I think that's all that Jeff meant by that. But it is what it is at the end of the day.
That is true.
And yeah, I don't know. But what I have heard is that we're not going to see that particular Fable footage at the Game Awards. So it makes me wonder increasingly if Fable might be the topic of a dev direct in the future, either in February, January, or maybe further out in the year, especially if Fable is going to be this big holiday game for Microsoft. But yeah, we'll see. I said some very specific things about that trailer, which which will prove that I was not making it up. I'm not going to share the footage, obviously, because people go crazy when it's like, look at all the discourse around the Grand Theft Auto footage, which was represented unfinished code. I don't want to misrepresent what the game is.
Well, didn't even the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer that leaked like off-screen cam? And then and then Rockstar was forced to release the trailer early.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You present things like when it's off screen, you don't really get a true sense of it. So, I'm looking forward to seeing proper footage and hang tight.
Evan says the dev direct is always in January, but every year people say it might be later. It's literally always January. Well, I mean, there's only two. We've only had two of them, so yeah. I mean,
there was a reason. There was a reason I was thinking it might be later than February this year, and I can't tell you the reason. So
you can't tell us the reason.
Yeah, I can't. But like, it might still be January. But there was a reason I was thinking it might be February this year, or like very early February, like the first week. But it might also not. It might also be like maybe mid-January instead. I don't know.
I mean,
we'll
I
see.
always kind of
I'm
just
kind
I kind of mark.
there's some guesswork there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last 2 times it's been towards the end of January, so I could easily see it being like end of January, beginning of February type thing, where doesn't really matter if it's January as long as it's like within, as long as it's not like April or something, right? You know, if it was like first week of February or something like that. And like Fable would be a game I would expect to be there. I mean, I know there's not a lot of history to draw from, considering there's only been 2 of them, but the history of these events is these are the games that are coming this year. And Microsoft is pretty much, they've been out there talking about the games they have for 2025. And so if I were to say like what games you would expect to see at a Dev Direct in January or February, then yeah, Fable would be at the top of the list. It'd be Fable, it'd be South of Midnight, and it would be the Doom the Dark Ages. Those would be the 3 games I would expect to see at one of those shows. And then you'd have a 4th. You could, you could have something. I know last year they partnered and showed off something from Square Enix, and was it Visions of Mana, like one of the Mana games that was coming to Xbox. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a first-party game. But we know of at least 3 coming next year. Avowed, I think, is probably not going to be featured again, but, I would imagine Fable would be there. I'm probably disappointed if it wasn't, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff on the slate, So even if Fable wasn't at this one, there's other stuff that should wet
Final
your
Fantasy
whistle,
16
so
at
to speak.
Direct, says someone in chat. That'd be funny.
Man, I don't know. I've kind of soured to Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, Jesus Christ, here we go.
The combat is so boring, bro.
Hey, it's I mean,
So boring, man. And I think like when you make a game where 90% of what you do is combat, it's that's problematic for me. No, not
yeah,
fair.
I
Is that
suppose.
not fair?
I suppose.
It's still cool. It's a cool game, but I just think it's like it's a little bit. It leans too hard into narrative first. I think for me.
J-Dog says, I want the Transformers games to return AAA.
There's a lot of rumors about that.
Yeah, I saw a report that said the Transformers games, the 2 Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, and a couple Spider-Man games were getting back-end updates on Steam.
Yeah. And Hasbro also announced that they're shifting budgets away from co-financing movies and going harder into gaming. They said something along those lines. And they said they've got a new game in the Dungeons and Dragons universe coming. Because I would presume that they own the source code for Baldur's Gate 3, right? Right?
Who?
Hasbro.
I mean, I don't know. Is that their property? Is that their...
Yeah,
do they own that?
Well, that's what I presume, is that they own the source code. So they could take Baldur's Gate 3 and hand it off to another studio to make sequels, potentially. I don't know who would be good enough to really give that a whack. But, Owlcat Games, who made the Warhammer 40k CRPG recently, what was it called? Rogue Trader. That might be a good candidate. And they might be more up for it than Larian. They don't mind doing licensed stuff. They did the Pathfinder games as well. So it sounds like we're going to get more Baldur's Gate for my money.
Well, the thing about those other, like the Spider-Man games and the Transformers stuff is people even though a bunch of games get updates during that time, the reason why people are focused on this one is because they think it means that there's some sort of potential Game Pass drop or a relisting of these games, because I think some of them, or if not most of them, are delisted on Steam as well as on Xbox. Like
sure
the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 are, Transformers games are. I'm not sure about the Spider-Man games, like Spider-Man Shattered Dimension. Maybe it is. Which that game was great too, by the way. If you haven't played Spider-Man Shattered Dimension, I always thought it was weird when people were like, "Oh, there's never been a great Spider-Man game." It's like there were great Spider-Man games before Insomniac got their hands on the license and did their Spider-Man game, like Shattered Dimensions was great. So like when people see these updates, they think it means, we're getting close. Xbox has to be getting ready to release these games, relist these games on Steam, sell them again, probably put them up on Xbox, the Xbox app on PC, and then, relist them on the Xbox consoles, put them in the Game Pass and stuff, which, would be cool for sure. Maybe you get some back and pat stuff. I want to see Singularity come back. I want to see a Singularity 2, Although I guess we kind of got aspects of Singularity 2 in a way, and some of the like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 levels. But interesting, like when we were talking about Fable, both Euromalice and Paris have an interesting comment about that. Euromalice says, if there is a Fable Direct in June, I could see them skipping it for the Dev Direct. And Paris literally just comes out, like Parastradamus, and says, Fable will be the Dev Direct after the June showcase. So Paris is already putting his stamp on this, that just like the last, 2 years, Xbox would have their showcase and then immediately go into a direct. 2 years ago it was Starfield. This past year it was Black Ops 6. Paris is saying right now that when this year's showcase ends, it's going to go right into the Fable Direct.
Makes sense.
Which
it's going to be that big game of the year.
Well, their big game of the year. Their big game of the year is going to be Call of Duty, whatever they call the next Call of Duty.
Yeah, but the next Call of Duty is not going to be as well received. You just know it.
Probably not. Yeah. Even though the rumor is that it's a sequel to Black Ops 2, I think even Tom, when he was on our episode of Xbox 2+1, he didn't even know who's developing it or who's the main developer behind it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know.
How are you doing a sequel to Black Ops 2? You're going to call it Black Ops 7, or are you going to call it Black Ops 2
Well, you can't call it 3 and you can't call it 4. So I don't know.
I mean, as Microsoft's kind of notorious for not knowing how to count. Is that rubbing off on Activision already? I don't know. But yeah,
Zach Riley says
going to be a
Black
lot of
Ops
cool
2 3/4.
2 3/4, yeah.
Yeah, 2.75.
Like Naked Gun. You ever seen Naked Gun? Love that movie.
BLOPS2 squared, says Thanaros. Yeah.
Blops. Naked Gun route, yeah. Blops.
So Microsoft did have a launch new game this week, Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, which is its own game. I remember when they originally announced this, I was like, oh, so this is going to be DLC for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. But no, actually brand new release, trying to gamify it more. Like there's a lot of, like putting out fires and stuff, like something that would actually feel like a game. Because Flight Sim was just like, you're just flying from airport to airport or wherever you want to go, right? I played it for like an hour. I drove by Chicago, went by the Sears Tower, saw my house, and I'm like, yeah, this is all I need, right?
I'm done.
I'm deleted. It's like, whatever. This isn't. I know there are people out there that love this shit, right? That have their really expensive flight controls, and they just go crazy and they just chill flying. And I love them for it. God bless each and every one of you, right? That loves to play those things. And it's great because not every game needs to be for me. I got my games that I like, and people like, other games. The world would be boring if everybody liked all the same shit. So, I recognize that there are definitely people out there that love this franchise. And, well, they were very vocal. The people that loved the franchise, and also the people that just kind of wanted to check it out, chill, because it didn't work at launch, like at all. It didn't work, period. And they had a lot of problems with getting people in. They put out a video and they started talking about like what the issue was. And I think they mentioned in the video that they only really had done stress testing with up to like 200,000 players or for 200,000 players. So it seemed like more people
for a cloud company.
Yeah, it seems like more people than they expected were interested in trying out this game. I do think it's better now, although maybe not 100%. I hear people from the UK have a tough time getting still getting connected and stuff, but it seems like at least they've they're
I'll
trying
try and launch it. I'll
trying
try
to
and
harder
launch it in a sec.
yeah try to launch it. I have heard from a couple of my friends who are big flight sim guys that like the planes don't fly right or something, or the controls are messed up or something like that. I don't know if that's true because I don't know anything really about flight sim, so it's tough for me to talk about it when it's literally one of those games that I know that exists, but I have like zero interest in it, so I don't really pay attention to any of the things surrounding it. You know, maybe we should get, we should probably get Paris. You can talk about it. You can talk about, you know, flying in the danger zone, or hopping on.
In the danger zone.
Yeah, you know that's the gift of Paris when, you know, put on the glasses. He's about to enter the danger zone. I mean, Paris is basically the spokesperson of Microsoft Flight Sim. You know, when you think of Microsoft Flight Sim, you gotta think of Paris.
I didn't know Paris loved Flight Sim.
I don't know if he loves Flight Sim, but he's definitely the spokesperson for it because he's always doing those little things for the game. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I sort of feel like they should have saw these problems coming because I think they offloaded a lot of the game to the cloud because the install for the game is kind of a lot less than the previous one, and they were using a lot of the cloud to stream, you know, the world, the textures and stuff.
Let's see if I can log in.
Okay.
But yeah, like people love these games, man. Like we sell so many flight sticks, Windows Central, and I want to like it because I like the idea of it. But when you actually play it, it's like, man, I just wish I could kill someone.
Wish you could like get one of those jets and actually fighter jets
like
and deploy some missiles. Go like it's like Ace Combat or something.
Yeah, blow up my house or something like that. I think that would be sick. And you know what I'm like when it comes to games. I need to be able to smack something in the head. And but like I appreciate it from a technical achievement level. Like it's so impressive when it comes to like the fact that they were able to revive this really old classic IP. You know, like this is a franchise that Microsoft corporate had decided was dead. You know, Age of Empires as well. Like, and Microsoft proved them wrong. You know, and it's only been as a result of like getting actual gamers running Xbox rather than the suits. That these games have rematerialized, and you know, it's exciting that it's like if you're a playing fanboy, sorry. That like it's all like true to life plane brands like Forza, you know.
So you don't mean plain fanboys, you mean plane fanboys.
Yeah, aeroplane.
You don't mean PLA. You don't mean PLAIN. You mean PLANE.
Yes, plane aeroplane. What do you call them?
I don't know, the way that you just said these plain fanboys, like I thought you're just talking about a nondescript fanboy of a company,
no.
just plain.
No.
What do you mean the other way?
No. Yeah, I mean aeroplane. You know, in England we have train spotters, right? In England. And there are people who just love trains, and they track down the specific trains and all the different models of trains, and they love trains, and it's kind of wholesome to be that passionate about something like that. And Flight Simulator is like the ultimate example of a sort of hobbyist kind of simulation game, right? When it's got all the laser scan planes and the real brands in there, like Forza has all the car brands, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when you are someone who is a huge fan of this franchise, and even though like a lot of us here maybe don't get it and stuff like that, it's their perfect game. It's their game of the year, you know. And for it to be such a fucking mess at launch, like my game just crashed actually. So I'm trying to boot it up.
Your game already crashed?
Yeah, it already crashed.
Bad first impression.
So there you go.
Huh?
Like, well, trying to load it up. So
maybe it couldn't do it. Maybe it's like your internet. You know, you're streaming here. Or I'm actually streaming, but it knows you're on Discord. It's like, we can't handle it. You know?
Can't handle the bandwidth. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's struggling again. I mean, it looks stunning, like just on the loading screen, loading world data, and also like the fact that it's like, it's based on real world weather, and right now there's a huge like I think someone mentioned it in chat.
Yeah, there's like a huge
Oh, the
volcano
volcano.
going on in Iceland.
So this is crazy, right? Because where the volcano is erupting in Iceland, I was there. I was there a couple of summers ago. Do you remember? I went to Iceland,
Yeah.
and I literally saw the bus stop that we used to get home melted in the lava.
Jesus.
I'm like,
But, the
oh
one
my
thing,
God.
the one thing that I always remember about you going on vacations is that something Xbox related leaks, and it's usually big.
Yeah.
Which,
well, I'm going on a big
prepare
vacation
yourselves,
next year,
guys,
so-
because Jez is going on vacation for 2 weeks in February. So something
Sure am.
Xbox related is absolutely going to leak then. So keep your
sure
calendar
is.
marks. Something in February. I don't know what the dates are, but Jez literally told me last week, oh, by the way, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to have to get some guests for the podcast for those weeks then, because you're going to be gone. So
Yeah, you can get Parasol and talk
some
about
acquisition will
Boston and
probably happen, maybe, or I forget. One of the leaks was the Xbox FTC document.
It was the FTC.
one of it.
The FTC
But
documents,
I forget
yeah.
what the other leak or the other information because it was both times you went on vacation.
Yeah,
I forget what
on,
the other one was. What happened during the other?
Yeah,
time.
I went to Greece. I can't remember what happened that time either, but the game's loaded now, so there's got create character here.
They got a career. There's career mode that you can go through, which has some of the interesting like game stuff within it.
A lot of Gen Z haircuts.
Yeah, the handheld will get announced and Jez will be on vacation. Yeah, that'd be right.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, probably something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of it sounds like they're all hands on deck trying to fix Flight Sim right now. At Microsoft and oh my God. Okay, well the game's a 0 out of 10 for me automatically.
Why?
No
what
beard.
happened?
No beards.
No beard. Do you see? I don't know if you saw Cog posted his clip of his created character, which looked just like him, and then the voices, and one of the voices like Captain Lord Cognito here, where it like literally said his name, and like because you could pick from a bunch of different voices, and one of the voices like said his name, and I think there was like a Forza Horizon that did that. I don't know if it was Forza. It was like, welcome Matthew, and I'm like, what? Who? Like I didn't pick anything, and I just read the name off my Microsoft profile or something.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose like this is probably the perfect kind of game to test those kind of AI integrations. Like maybe it can knows your real name, tell it some stuff about you. You can maybe it can mix up the flight controller dialogue and stuff like that. I'm gonna. Okay, so we're loading up now. So it's so far so good. I'm gonna fly from Birmingham Airport.
Yeah.
Oh, is Birmingham Airport not there?
I mean, I don't know.
Nope, no Birmingham Airport. So that's again another downer. How can you not have the premier airport of Birmingham?
You got to probably buy it or something.
Yeah, I don't know. So we're gonna fly from Birmingham to Iceland because I want to see this. This pyroclasm.
But while you do that, I'll get a couple of these super chats. We got James Black 94. Rand, want a guest on my 3-hour podcast? No, sorry, not doing no Pokemon podcast. We got Red with the 199. Podcast? I'm sure someone has a Pokemon podcast somewhere. It says Astro sold 1.5. Sonic also sold 1.5. Isn't that the same? I mean, you can always point to differences. Sonic is a beloved character that's been around for generations, 20 years. Astro was literally just created, I don't know, 6 years ago.
Sonic has a movie.
One was on one platform, one was on every platform. One's a remaster, one's a new thing. I mean, there's a lot of... Even though it's like, okay, they're both platformers to an extent, and they both have sold the same, there are sort of differences within them. And Rodrigo with the 2 says, will Xbox Game Studios be at the TGA? Sony announced God of War stuff there. I mean, as we discussed earlier, and people corrected us in chat, yeah, Xbox had a big TGA last year. From Blade, from Kojima's OD, and Hellblade had a new trailer. So they showed 3 things last year. Will they show 3 things this year? I don't know. It's possible they have a game announcement. You know, maybe we could see like a South of Midnight trailer. They just released their documentary and just seen some gameplay of it. Seems like that game's closer to release than Doom or, Fable. Then again, like maybe we see Doom. Like Doom is a big, massive franchise, and the Game Awards, for all its faults, we can talk about like what they're doing with the DLC stuff, which we did extensively last episode, and how corporate it is, and how it's basically an advertisement show. It's also a time where that's where you get a lot of eyes on. That's why Jeff can charge as much as he charges and can do what he does, because it's like the biggest event for gaming now. Now that E3 is dead and gone and will never come back, the biggest gaming event is the Game Awards that Jeff runs. So
Sure is.
when we know that Doom the Dark Ages is coming next year, you could argue that a good time to maybe have a new trailer is at Jeff's show. And I know there's a lot of Xbox fans that want Xbox to kind of cut out Jeff, that feel like Jeff always, he doesn't talk about Xbox in the same manner he talks about PlayStation. He certainly doesn't tweet about
He doesn't
about
give
them the
Xbox
same.
a fair shake.
So there are a lot of people that are like, Xbox just needs to cut them out completely. Don't give anything to Jeff. But they do, because you can't
Eyeballs.
ignore
Eyeballs.
all the people who watch that show. And, you need to still sell your product and get eyes on it. So maybe you see Doom there. Maybe because I think we'll get a. I was even thinking when Paris and Uramal said that. Oh, what if they do a Fable dev direct at the showcase? But what if it was a Doom dev direct at the showcase and not a Fable one? Does Doom not deserve a dev direct or a after the showcase? You could pick either or.
I really think it's probably Fable that gets that treatment, because it's like Fable's an important game. It's kind of going to be. It's kind of got pressure under it, right? Because I think a lot of people were looking to Starfield to be the game that Microsoft finally proved they could have a Game of the Year worthy game, potentially. But now, Starfield's gone and passed, and it was controversial, or people had a split opinion about it. I kind of feel like people are now looking to Fable to deliver that.
I mean, Doom.
And while Doom, but Doom is a multi-platform game.
Sure. So it doesn't count?
So it doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Is that how it goes?
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's dumb, but it doesn't count because it's multi-platform. So at least Fable will be timed exclusive, because as we know, everything's an Xbox now, including PlayStation. So at the very least, it's a timed exclusive, which means it counts towards whether or not Microsoft can make games. Whereas all these other games that are multi-platform, they don't count. Call of Duty doesn't count.
Well, hold on.
World of Warcraft doesn't count.
If it's Bethesda and it's good, then Microsoft has nothing to do with it. But if it's Bethesda and it's bad, like Redfall, then Microsoft's the one to blame.
Exactly. You exactly know now.
Interesting. I don't need to see all of Doom. I just know that Doom's going to be amazing. And it's definitely a Game of the Year contender, regardless. I mean, Doom Eternal was. So, you could be looking at one of them. I mean, next year's kind of going to be crazy. If everything releases next year as is, there's going to be a lot of contenders. I mean, right off the top, Grand Theft Auto 6, right? Regardless of if it's actually good or not, I think the hype alone would propel it to ridiculous review scores. And I can imagine you seeing articles and reviews that are like, the king is back. Grand Theft Auto redefines open world or whatever. This is my prediction right here. You'll see those words. The king is back. Redefines. Evolution. Stuff like that. And it'll be locked in. Like, people will be talking about it'll be the biggest game. But also, Kojima's got a new release next year with Death Stranding 2.
Sure does.
Death Stranding 1 was a Game of the Year contender in 2019. And we know Jeff loves Kojima, and we know Kojima loves Jeff. So you could already look at that one as, oh yeah, Death Stranding 2 for sure. That's a lock. We know Switch 2 is coming out, and they're probably going to launch the 3D Mario. That's a lock. That's 3 games locked right there. So this is look, and we're not even in 2025, and I can already give you 3 nominees for next year. And Jez would say Monster Hunter Wilds is a lock. So there's 4. So you're already at 4
Monster
now.
Hunter Wilds is obviously a lock.
So you're at 4, and you know.
Wait. Is Stalker 2 eligible for next year?
I don't know, because I want to say the games that were eligible this year had to have been released to the public before November 22nd. I think that was the cutoff date, which was today. So I don't know if it's going to be eligible for next year's show.
Poor Stalker.
Poor Stalker, indeed.
So Flight Sim works pretty well now, actually. No, and now I'm in the game.
Yeah. Do you see the volcano yet?
Nope. Now this is the issue I've got, right? I spawned in Birmingham to fly to Iceland. However, it spawned me in the slowest plane imaginable. It's got a propeller on it. So it's probably going to take me the length of this podcast to actually fly there. So.
Oh, jeez.
I think that's kind of like a good length of flying, you know. So by the end of this podcast, we'll see if we've made it to Iceland, and then I'll crash into the lava and burn.
Well,
just to make things grim.
Let's talk about Stalker 2, because that was the other game that released this week, which you've played extensively. It's your gameplay being shown on screen.
I apologize.
It also is another game that launched rough, like Microsoft Flight Sim. A lot of anomalies, as they call it, right?
Yeah, they're not bugs. They're just anomalies.
They're just anomalies that will
just the zone
get patched up.
Just the zone.
There's a lot to be said about the reviews and how people kind of took to it. But I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about this? Because I think you said you could ignore the bugs and stuff and kind of see through what the game was. There were like patches later on. I think there was like a patch like on Thursday, or like the day before it came out, that really helped out a lot. So what are your initial thoughts on the reviews and how people reviewed something like Stalker 2, and then your overall thoughts on the game?
I think like Stalker 2 it's designed in a certain way on purpose, because that's like what the original game was like, and that's what Stalker fans want, right? So I think a lot of people who don't know what Stalker is and what it represents and how it's meant to play, which is like maximum immersion, I think they didn't get it. If you try and play it like Far Cry, you won't get it. You try and play it like Call of Duty, you won't get it. I think Alex on YouTube said it, on Twitter said it best. It's just like you really have to be careful and take a sort of a lot of care to everything you're doing, which means like, I'm not going to leave without these supplies for this mission, or I've got to travel this length of distance, so I'm going to make sure that I sleep beforehand, so I've got like enough daylight to get back, you know, because oh my god, it is terrifying when it's dark, you know, and the game dynamically spawns enemies into your game to create those scary bloody moments, you know. And that's like what the old school games did. They had these like great systems for spawning dynamic events and all that kind of stuff. And that's what people want out of this game. They want to feel immersed. They want to feel challenged, right? Now, when the review program started, which started a couple of weeks ago now, something like that, the first build I got was really rough. And I was like, oh man, it's kind of like the preview build. I thought it'd be more polished by now, whatever. But then like the next day, 139 gigabyte update dropped on the client, and it was like, oh, okay, that's much better. So then my game was stable, no more crashing on Xbox. Great. Although I think it is crashing on some GPUs or CPUs or some configurations on PC. On Xbox for me so far, and I'm about 6 hours in, it's been pretty damn stable, right? So then it's sort of like my attention went from the optimization towards more gameplay oriented issues. So I've had glitches. I've had NPCs stuck in the floor, for example. I had a quest where the trigger for the next part of the quest was bugged. Like you couldn't interact with it. I've also had an issue where a certain weapon you couldn't interact with it to add attachments, stuff like that, right? But then there was a 40 gigabyte update which fixed the bug quest I was having and also fixed the bug weapon, my bugged weapon. So it was like, oh, okay, they're updating it pretty rapidly here. But then there was like even more issues, which is like the dead zone. The dead zone on Xbox and gamepads in general is awful. It's a complete mess because they've set the dead zone to 0, like I mentioned earlier, which means that if you're using an analog controller, you're gonna have drift, like really bad drift, because every analog controller has at least some drift, which is why most games set the dead zone to about 10 or something like that, or they give you control of the dead zone so you can set your own dead zone. So I've got a GameSir G7 wide controller with Hall effect sticks, which is immune to stick drift. So I've been playing it with that, but even that is like kind of floaty. You know, like you'll see me struggle shooting sometimes while playing this, and it's because I'm playing it with the controller, and the controls feel a bit weird because of that stuff. So they need to improve the gamepad controls. I'd say as a priority on the Xbox version at the very least. But you can play with the mouse and keyboard on Xbox and also on cloud on xCloud. So like if you do have a mouse and keyboard set up near your Xbox, you can play it like that, and it does feel a lot better with a mouse and keyboard. This is obviously a PC first developer and stuff like that, right? So, so while like some of the issues I've been having are more about almost like very particular to the console version, you know, and I haven't played the PC version yet. I'm going to try downloading the PC version to my Lenovo Legion Go. I don't know how well it's going to run on Z1 Extreme. Probably not very well, I would suspect. But there's also some gameplay issues, like I mentioned, their sort of dynamic event spawning system has a very small range compared to the original game, and I don't know if that's an issue relating to Unreal Engine or something like that. But like in the original game, it would spawn events and dynamic content and enemies like quite far away. So like it was often advantageous to play like a stalker, you know, like stalking around with a scope and a sniper rifle and stuff like that. But this time round, the enemies spawn much closer in, and so close sometimes that people have reported they spawn on top of each other. Furthermore, if you run out of that range, and there was no way I could necessarily test this previously until now, but like if you go out of range, those enemies will just die or despawn or something like that. But like, so like there's an issue there as well, and a lot of fans of the original games, they really wanted, they call it A-Life, A-Life, their sort of dynamic system. Like, do you remember Creation Engine for Skyrim and stuff had like the Radiant quest system? I think Bethesda called it Radiant system. It's similar to that, right? But the range is really poor, and the variety of events seem to be pretty poor as well. So, so there's those issues to speak of too. So I do think like, but there's still the underlying game and the atmosphere is amazing. The music's amazing. The gunplay feels amazing. You know, if you're playing it with a mouse at least, and you know that sort of Stalker vibe is just it feels great to see like locations from the original game, so lovingly recreated in a modern engine. But you know, it seems like there's been a lot of trade-offs to achieve that, and I think it'll just take a little bit of time to get it to a more polished state. The good news is, you know, there's a lot of stuff to play right now, and I think when Stalker, because Stalker is getting expansions and DLC and also free content updates, I said they're gonna do similar to Cyberpunk, where it was like we're gonna do these big expansion packs, but there's also gonna be like feature updates for free on top of what else they're trying to do, right? They said like as they get further into the you know, the coming months, there'll be like all kinds of free updates and other things heading into the game to improve every aspect of it, right? And obviously the bug fixes going in and stuff like that. So I think like Cyberpunk, I think Stalker will have a long tail, especially like people are already downloading mods for the game and all that kind of stuff. And you know, obviously it's sold 1 million copies already. It's got like 100,000 players on Steam and even more on Game Pass.
Yeah, they said
you know,
more
from
playing it on Game Pass, right?
yeah, so clearly the game's already been a success story, but I think like for in a broader context, there's also some balance issues. Like I think the mutants are way too tanky, and because of the way like the A life system works, like you can just run away from them and they will despawn. So like it's bad. It's bad design when it's more optimal to run away from certain enemies than it is to actually stand and fight. Especially because those enemies, all they're going to do is soak up your bullets. There's literally no reason to fight them in the open world. Like it's not like a mutant's carrying ammo. You know, um, so especially like the bloodsuckers and stuff at the start of the game, I'm just like, fuck this, I'm out. I'm not fighting this thing. It's invisible. It takes a million bullets to kill it. So it's easy. It's more optimal to run away, and I think that's not great. So I think some of those it does need a lot of fixes. I would hope that they communicate well with the audience. Obviously, the game's been developed in very extreme circumstances, so obviously, you know, it's a wonder to me that it's even launched in the state that it's in. It's not like it's unplayable, you know. Whereas, like, if you were running on Xbox One, Cyberpunk was unplayable. I think Cyberpunk launched in more of a state than this, personally, at least as insofar as I've got. Um, but yeah, like what I played so far, it's fantastic. It's exactly what I want from a game, personally, and I love it.
Well, how's the shooting?
I just,
How's the story?
I mean, the story so far has been interesting. The voiceovers in English are terrible. So if you are going
That's
to play it for
surprising,
story,
right?
yeah, yeah, the voice acting is in English is absolutely awful. It's like the lowest of the low grade. And we have to remember this is an indie studio that hasn't released a game in a long time. So they've got investment in, obviously, from Microsoft to make this game. And also they've got a legacy in, the Stalker products and I think it's called Cossacks, a strategy game they used to make. So like uh obviously they've got some money coming in, but this is still like a small studio, small indie studio compared to, some of the like if if like it's got more soul than any Ubisoft open world game, even though it's made by this like much more smaller team, So, um, but yeah, the voice acting is a big area of issues. But I just play in Ukrainian, just play in Ukrainian with subtitles. I play Japanese games that way as well because I can't stand listening to Americans try and be Japanese kawaii and stuff like that. It's really cringy, So I just play Japanese games in Japanese as well. I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 Japanese, for example. But so like that's an issue. But the story seems really interesting so far. You play as a guy called Skiff, right? And his house has been blown up by a by a radioactive artifact. Um, and the he was just chilling in his apartment, and then a radioactive artifact smashed through his house and blew it up into his house, right? Because this game takes place in an alternative timeline where Chernobyl had a second meltdown kind of thing and created like a sort of a rip in reality kind of thing. So now there's all these gravitational anomalies flying around, all kinds of weird stuff popping off, like black holes floating around and fire just spawning out of the ground and all kinds of stuff. Mutants, dudes that have been turned inside out, otherworldly beings and entities and all kinds of weird stuff. So this guy Skiff's like, he's gonna go to the zone to get like one of the things about the zone is the artifacts there, like they're worth money, to science. Even though like Ukraine has like an exclusion zone set up, so the military won't let anyone in, but like people go in anyway to try and get these artifacts out and then sell them on the black market or there's science research going on there and all kinds of stuff. So like for people, mercenary type people, the zone is flooded with these mercs and stuff. So you play as someone who's there to exploit that aspect of it. And then he gets screwed over by someone he was working with, and it's kind of like a revenge story almost. And also he wants to get back the equipment that was stolen from him at the start of the game. So, and I just found in the story where I'm playing, I just found the dude that screwed me over. I think you see it in the video, the gameplay footage we're seeing, and And then it's sort of like it sort of evolves into this deeper kind of story where it's like, oh, there's actually like a bigger conspiracy going on here. So it's really, really cool, man. And the vibe is great. When you're stalking around in the dark, I love the fact that nighttime in this game is actually nighttime. So many games where it's nighttime, it's not actually nighttime. It's still like it's never truly dark. But in this game, when it's nighttime, it is nighttime. You can't see a damn thing. You've got like a little torch that's got barely any range. And it is terrifying walking around at night in this game, dude. It's terrifying, man. And because, those tanky mutants can just leap out of the bushes and kill your ass in like seconds. It is brutally difficult game.
Yeah.
Brutally difficult. You have to really, aim for the head, place your shots. Because also it's like, you can also run out of bullets really easily if you're not placing your shots well. If you like,
yeah, you can't play it like Call of Duty, right? Where you're just spraying and praying. You can't do that.
Spraying and praying. You can't like just unload your bullets into a dude's armor or Kevlar chest with reckless abandon. It's way more optimal to go for those headshots, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the game I really love the game, and I just want to see it a little bit more polished. So I'm gonna wait a little bit before playing it. A few weeks maybe. Try and finish off Dragon Age, which I'm really struggling with, Rand. I got to tell you, I'm struggling with Dragon Age. I'm the dialogue.
Doesn't matter. It's over. I beat it before. It's fun. It's done and over with. You just stop playing.
How do you get through it, man?
I won.
How did you get through it,
dude? I looked at your time on Xbox. The time that you have on Xbox right now is the same exact amount of time I played. So within the amount of time that you've played it, I already beat the game and did everything in the game in the same amount of time that you currently have.
Really?
Yeah, we both had the same playtime.
You did everything? All the mini bosses and the dragons and
every
stuff?
single quest. And all the companion missions, I did everything in the game. And
all the side bosses?
All the bosses, all the dragons, yep.
Damn.
And you're still playing.
Rip.
Yeah.
I can't be that far away from the end.
If you want to do have you been doing everything? I don't know.
I have, but I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling with doing everything because I'm bored. I don't really care. I don't care about the characters. The plot is and I also know it's probably the last time we're ever going to see Dragon Age. So I'm just kind of like, I don't feel passionate about it.
The funny thing is there is a secret ending to that game.
Yeah, I've heard this.
If you collect a couple, like there's like 3 things you can sort of collect. If you collect all 3, there's an after credits ending.
Don't spoil it, but I have heard.
I had no idea when I was watching. I'm like, I have no idea what this even is. At least with some of the other stuff, like Marvel after credits or something I'm interested in. Be like, oh, I know what this is. I'm watching this. I'm like, I don't even know what this means.
So this is like a lore thing you don't know about, basically.
Yeah, probably. I have no clue.
Say, I will say the one thing that I did like about Dragon Age so far is the overarching lore implications are very well done. Whereas like in Mass Effect, the big lore reveals were kind of like, oh, that's kind of dumb. But in this, the big lore reveals have been like, oh, actually, that's really clever. So like that's one positive thing I can say about the game. And also the combat's pretty good. If like I'm starting to feel like it's repetitive now, but I can change it up, I guess. I can maybe switch to a different build or something to change it up, I guess, if I want to.
They do let you respec everything. But
I will, yeah.
Back to like Stalker 2 for a minute. Do you think it was reviewed properly? And what I mean by that is, I guess there's this sense of, you as a reviewer, you get the game early, so you're giving your opinions based on the stuff that you played, but also at the same time, that your experience with the game maybe won't be reflective of what the consumer's experience is going to be of the game when they get their hands on it.
Yeah, dude, it is hard to review a game like Stalker because, like, when I was talking to other reviewers who were playing it, friends of the show and people I know and stuff like that, and like some of the people I spoke to, they just didn't get it, and I was kind of like, I know why they don't get it. They don't get it because they're not playing it from immersive perspective. And I think I said this after I did the preview event. If you go back and listen to our preview event coverage of it, I was kind of like, I think a lot of people won't get it. And I think I even wrote that in my preview. I think my preview, I don't know if I changed my title, but I think my original title for that article was like, Stalker 2 is amazing, but a lot of people won't get it. So I kind of think, and I kind of feel like that because games like the Ubisoft open worlds, like Far Cry and stuff like that, they've kind of bullied us into feeling a certain way about open world games. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Like if you aren't someone who's willing to play the game how it wants to be played, and you don't enjoy it because of that, there's nothing wrong with that. And I suppose that's the great thing about Game Pass is that you can test it for cheap and figure out if it's for you, right? But for people there's an install base for this game already. The game blew the fuck up on Steam already because there is an audience for that game already. And they want the game to be a specific way. So that's like when I go on the Stalker subreddit, for example, nobody's talking about, the gunplay being too hard or whatever. They're all talking about the A-Life system not being as good as it was in Stalker 1 or Stalker Clear Sky and those older games, right? So that's what so the developers had to sort of, the developers, to be fair to them, they were uncompromising in their vision. They were like, we're going to make a game for Stalker fans, and if a new modern audience comes along for the ride, then great. But we're not going to compromise on what the Stalker fans want, which is why, like, the Stalker fans seem generally positive to what's there initially, but they just want to see the developers communicate improvements to some of those systems, which perhaps aren't as good as the original, as a byproduct of it being on Unreal Engine 5 maybe, or something like that. So I do, but when you're a reviewer, you are reviewing for the general public in essence, I think. Like my reviewer for the Stalker is a Stalker fan. He played the original games. He loves the original games. He also, loves those kind of games in general. And when I assign reviews out in my team, I try to get people who actually like the genre to review the game, right? Because I feel like if you review for a general audience who weren't interested in the game anyway, then what's the point? You got to review it for people who are interested in the game. And I think as long as you communicate this is the game is good for the audience it's going for, but if you're not into this kind of game, then you're gonna have trouble. You're gonna have issues with it. And I think our review communicated that. I think we gave it an 8 out of 10, held back by some of the bugs we were getting, like the dead zone stuff and all that kind of stuff. Alonso V says there's 100,000 players on Steam, game will be fine. Yeah, it's gonna have a long tail, and I think when they do start dropping expansions, it'll bring people back who bounced because of the bugs, and they'll be like, oh yeah, Stalker, I remember that game. It's been 6 months and now there's DLC. Oh, it's gonna be more polished. I'll jump in at this point, right? So yeah. But I do think you've got to review it from your point of view. If you're someone who hasn't played Stalker before, and you're reviewing it as someone who, doesn't know what it represents, what its legacy represents, then you've just got to review it with your best frame of mind, right? And
I sort of
if
don't
it's not
know,
for you, then it is what it is.
I sort of don't know why there wasn't more review in progress for the game. Considering how big the game is and the problems it was having, and then okay, we're gonna patch this stuff. I saw some reviewers that basically were like, well, this was my experience, which sure enough, give your experience, because it's like, hey, I played this game and there were so many bugs here and I had so many issues, so keep that in mind. I want to say maybe it was ACG who was loving the game but said he couldn't recommend it right now, so I think his rating was wait, or along those lines. But then they stamp it and they're like, oh, this game's a 2 out of 5. This game's a 40 Metacritic or a 50 Metacritic, because the bugs were so bad or impacted their enjoyment so much, where it was instead of being you know what, I'm gonna let people know to be concerned about picking this up right away, because obviously they're asking for your money. And anytime they ask you for your money, it's kind of yeah, well, you should know these things going in and make a informed decision about how, the product that you're buying, right? But if you're playing it a week ago and it just was shit, but then the day one patch happens and it's good and it fixes a lot of the problems. It's sort of been like, well, maybe you should do a review in progress just to see, because I think that's what Digital Foundry did, is they delayed their video of the game because they wanted to test out, what the game would be like for most of the consumers that were playing it, right? And I guess that's the unfortunate aspect of reviewing games, is that sometimes you'll get a game for review like 2 weeks or a week early, and then they're still trying their hardest to get everything to a, not necessarily to a playable state, but into like the final state or the better state. Like I've had things like, where like PR hits you up and is like, there's going to be a patch today that fixes all these problems. And you're like, oh shit, well, man, I wish I waited to play it until this patch, But then it's like, but that's why review in progress are a thing these days. But then also a lot of these outlets are like, need to get the review out now, need to hit the algorithm so, people actually check it out. Because if I don't, then nobody's going to care, and I sort of wonder, it's like, well,
what's the thing? It's like,
does the reviewer have a responsibility to?
Well, who cares, dude? Who cares? It's like, as long as you read the review.
Nobody reads reviews, Jez.
Well, that's a them problem.
I'm just saying, nobody reads articles, nobody reads reviews, bro.
If I've written a huge article and it says in the article, yeah, we've scored this, but there's going to be patches coming, so consider this a review in progress. We've scored it because it's a product you can buy now. But, if the content of the review describes accurately what the game is and what it will be in a few weeks or whatever, then maybe that's a you problem. That's your fault for not reading the review. Like, people have attacked me for saying like Stalker 2 is Game of the Year material. For me, these Game of the Year material. But, at the same time, if you actually read my preview, you'll see that I said there's huge caveats here. So that's a you guys problem, frankly. You don't read what I've written and don't put words in my mouth, and other reviewers and previewers too. Like, I always say like Skill Up, for example. Skill Up always puts like, I don't recommend this, or I do recommend this. And people they take that as the review score. So, but then ignore all the content of the review that he did. So like the Skill Up will post this huge nuanced review and make some really great points for and against the game, but people ignore all that and just go with the binary choice.
How many
bad good?
Okay, how many accounts on X and elsewhere that are aggregator accounts, will just literally, when a new game comes out, all they will do is just list all the outlets with the number score, and then a Metacritic score and an OpenCritic score, and that's all they see.
I'm not writing for them though. I'm just saying, read the article.
I'm just saying, like, I know how people are, right? Like when it's like, oh, IGN's review's out, they click on IGN and they scroll to the bottom to see what score it is. It's like 7, 8, 9, 10, and then like they're getting ready to be like, all right, let's go, and then they see a tweet from Shinobi, and Shinobi's like has 15 outlets listed and with a score they've given it, and then the OpenCritic and Metacritic score, and that's like, oh, this game's an 81, whatever. There's, not saying everybody doesn't read the reviews, but I think we as a community is sort of, it's just about the number at the end of the day. I mean, that's why like everybody kind of just posts those things and they take screenshots of the Metacritic thing and then post them online and be like, that's what it is. When like the nuances within the reviews, right? Like Gene Park writes really good reviews, has a lot of nuance when he writes his opinions on these things, but people just be like, Gene Park, 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4, I guess it is what it is, and it's not going to change. People have short attention spans, and they just, I don't know, sometimes they just want their opinions validated, so they're like, Stalker 2 is going to be great, so then you only really pay attention to the reviews that say Stalker 2 are great. Or Astrobot's amazing, and then you're like, oh yeah, 10, 9s, 8s, but you don't actually read the content of the reviews to get the finer details. I don't know. It's just a problem. I guess that's
we do. People do read reviews. Like I can track the time spent on page on our articles, You know, if someone's like on it for 5 minutes, then I know they've probably read the review. But you know, the discourse often just revolves around the scores and the headlines, right?
Sure.
I think 8 is a good score for this game, personally. But it's whatever. You've got to find the reviewers who resonate with you, and then that's it. You know, find the reviews you like. Like, oh, my opinion seems to align with this reviewer quite often. I'm gonna read their shit. You know, and I mean that's how I do it at least. I wish you did reviews, Rand. Still,
Maybe I will.
I used to I used to like reading your reviews, bro.
We got a super chat
So-
here from the Andrew for 199. He says you should have taken off
Listening to
the
your reviews.
Keflick, Jez.
The what?
Keflick. You should have taken
Keflick?
it off. That's what he says. Kefalovic.
Keflavik.
I don't know.
Oh, Keflavik Airport. I should have taken off from Keflavik
taken off at that
in
airport.
Iceland.
Okay.
You know, like my plane's still flying as we podcast. Where am I now? I don't know how to check. Okay, so I'm flying over. I'm still flying over Britain at this point. Goodison Park, is that Royal Liver Building? It's Goodison Park. That sounds like a football stadium. Anfield. Oh, I'm over Liverpool. Yeah, okay. I'm flying over Anfield. Is any Liverpool fans listening to this? But yeah, like when I first started playing Flight Sim, all the textures were fucked. Like all the like buildings and stuff below me all look really messed up. But like as I've been playing, they've gradually like loaded in, and now it looks fantastic. It looks super impressive, and obviously it's nighttime because it's nighttime IRL. Like it looks like, and I fly in a lot of planes, man. I fly in a lot of planes, and that's what it's like. It's what it looks like, man. It's picture perfect. It's gorgeous. I'm really impressed with how it looks. And also Anfield's got its own 3D model. So like a lot of the little houses and shit, they're all sort of like procedurally generated, but like someone making Flight Sim has actually must be a Liverpool fan because they've actually they've done a proper 3D model for Anfield. I'm a Liverpool fan. You said it wrong, or is that? Have I said it wrong? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't play football.
Rave Damos says, Rand, tell us how you play video
watch
games.
football,
Rave Damos says, Rand, tell us how you play video games. For me, if the storyline is 10 hours, it takes me sometimes double to complete the game. How are you doing it? I mean, I don't know. I usually play games on normal. I rarely play them on easy or below. I will bump it up to hard if the game is like way too easy. I don't know. I don't know if what I'm doing is different than anybody else. I don't know. If the game's open world like Dragon Age, maybe the Dragon's extensive use of fast travel to get around quickly. I'm not sure. I just play the game just like anybody else. Really. Maybe Jez just plays games slow. I don't know. And it's not
I
like
think one thing I do when I'm playing games is I'll put the controller down to reply to messages on Slack and stuff.
No,
So
I don't. I'm
Or
playing
right.
game. I'm locked in.
Or put the controller down to write a news post or something. So that's probably why my playtime's higher.
I mean,
than,
hell, even in Dragon Age, I listened to every conversation. I didn't skip any dialogue. You know,
I'm not skipping
You
dialogue.
could get
Well,
through. You could get through the
sometimes I
game
know.
faster if you were doing stuff like that. But
I'm skipping Taeshi's dialogue.
you're skipping
there's,
Tasha's dialogue.
Yeah, there's only so much whiny teenager I can take, bro. And
Fair enough.
Harding as well. I'm like, I don't care what you've got to say, Harding.
You don't
I don't
like
care, Harding.
You don't like Harding?
No, it's got Harding. Like Harding, you were a minor character in Inquisition. Why are you a main character here?
Are you?
Where's Liliana? Where's like my actual real characters?
I don't know.
I hate the companions, bro. I like Lucanus actually. Lucanus is cool, but the rest of them are lame.
Dude, Emmerich is great. What are you talking about?
Oh, Emmerich is cool too. I like Emmerich helps me set up combos, so he's cool. Lucanus is cool.
What about Darwin?
Darwin's alright actually. He's pretty good.
See, we got 3 of
I
them.
don't
you
like the bird. I don't like the bird.
You don't.
though.
You don't like the griffin.
Fucking Disney. Fucking.
So you like the
merchandise
dudes, but
bird.
you like the dudes, but you don't like any of the chicks.
Nev's okay.
Okay, so you like
Okay,
4
only
characters.
okay, but I don't care about them.
Oh, okay.
I like they're not. They're either like okay or meh. No, I'm not excited about any of them really. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just old and bitter and cynical now, and
Maybe you
that's
are.
maybe I'm the problem. You know, maybe I'm the problem, bro.
So,
But I really like the characters in Final Fantasy 16 though. So
oh, you like
so
Clive?
yeah, I think Clive is cool as hell, and the villains as well. Like I can't remember her name now, but she turned into Garuda.
Yep.
She was absolutely awesome. I thought that was a great villain, personally. But I don't know.
Speaking of,
It's all opinions, right?
yeah. The biggest. What, Jez?
I'm just reading what Adam M said. Liverpool native, Goodison Park is Everton FC's ground. Liverpool fan though. I thought, isn't Anfield Liverpool's thing? Am I going crazy? I thought Anfield. I don't know. Like, just James said I mispronounced it, but I don't know. They played Villa the other week, didn't they? Liverpool and Villa. When I was a little kid, my stepdad supported Aston Villa, but he doesn't support them anymore because they're really bad. Well, they have been really bad for a long time. Oh man. How's your sports life been going, Rand? So I remember, like the other week, you went off on a rant about how all Chicago's teams
They
suck.
all suck. The Bears suck. The Bears are about to beat the Packers, who they haven't beaten in 10 straight games. 10 straight, right? And the Bears play the Packers 2 times a year, so they haven't beat the Packers, who's their biggest rival. Like one of the oldest rivals in sports, definitely the oldest rivalry in all of football, in 5 years, right? And nobody was expecting them to even win, because of the problems that are going on with the quarterback Caleb and the coaching and all that stuff. But they were actually winning, and Caleb looked good, and the Bears were down 20-19. And they went to kick a field goal to win the game, and the field goal got blocked. And the game was over, and the Packers won. So that's 11 straight.
Exactly.
What? What's a Packer?
Yeah, what are they? They
pack
something.
cheese, I guess. Isn't it the Green Bay Packers?
Is it cheese?
They're packing cheese up in Wisconsin. Yeah. Probably. So the Bears are 4-8, 4-7. They suck. The White Sox were the worst team in baseball fucking history. The Blackhawks are awful, and I hate the Cubs, but the Cubs aren't good either, so good. So yeah, it's depressing here being a Chicago sports fan because everybody sucks.
What about Michael Jordan, bro?
I mean, what about Michael Jordan?
Bring him back.
He's like
Chicago Bulls.
Owns the Hornets or whatever.
Wasn't he in Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, he was yeah. But he doesn't want anything to do with Chicago. I don't blame him.
Why not?
Because Jerry Reinsdorf is an asshole owner. He owns the White Sox and the Bulls.
Oh. I just remember Space Jam, bro.
I mean, who doesn't remember Space Jam?
Space Jam was lit. No, but not Space Jam 2, though.
But
Space Jam 2 was lit.
Let's talk about probably the biggest news story of the week. Potentially a lot of ramifications. Kind of came out of nowhere. It's an acquisition that leaked, which normally these things don't leak. But I guess because of circumstances around this, potentially it's because, well, we'll get into it. But Sony is looking to buy Kadokawa. Yeah, I think I said it not right. And the thing is, what this pertains to gaming is because they own a bunch of like studios, but the one that they do own majority control in is FromSoftware. The makers of Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro. one of the premier studios in the video game industry. I mean, how like anytime they put out a game, except if it's Armored Core, it's a Game of the Year nomination, if not a win, right?
Armored Core was good, man.
Well, I'm saying it was good, and I think it did get a couple nominations, but not for Game of the Year. But most of the time, anything else, like people love that stuff. So, and it even came out that Kadokawa, they admitted that we got a letter of intent here from Sony to offer to buy all the shares. So this is a acquisition that it potentially is happening. We know that Sony sent a letter of intent and all that stuff. There's been speculation surrounding that potentially they went to Sony to get bought out because there was a South Korean company that was looking to do a hostile takeover. And so maybe they approached Sony to purchase them instead, and that's maybe why this thing leaked out in general, because they wanted the other company to back away, whatever. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And I think from all accounts, like reading about this, it's not necessarily about FromSoftware, because while that would be a great pickup for sure, this purchase largely has to do with anime, manga, and stuff like that. Something that Sony is already kind of has a stranglehold on. And if they would get them, they'd basically have a complete monopoly on the anime industry and all that stuff, right?
Sure would.
But, I don't care about the anime stuff. I don't care about manga. I know a lot of people do. And they obviously, like...
You're mean.
I'm just saying personally, I don't care about any of that stuff. I know that people do, and, that could lead to... Especially if, like, the only supplier of it is basically whatever Sony says, higher prices, stuff like that, which is not good. So you would think maybe, I don't know, a regulator would step in and be like, this is, you can't do this. But is regulators going to care about anime? I'm not really sure about that, right? But, when it comes to gaming, there's the FromSoftware aspect, which is something to be talked about, because we are in a situation where we've seen Sony acquire a bunch of different studios, and some of them make exclusive games for PlayStation, and then they acquired Bungie, who is, at least right now, still making their games multi-platform. We've seen Xbox buy a bunch of studios, and, well, when they purchased Activision Blizzard, they're like, Call of Duty's still going to be multi-platform. And even though Bethesda was bought with exclusives in mind, that doesn't really seem like that's the case anymore. And it does seem like a lot of, if not most of all of Xbox's, even, Xbox Game Studios games will be either day one or timed exclusive, going on other platforms. I mean, the question then, becomes, what is Sony going to do with potentially owning one of the premier studios in the industry? Do they... make the next Elden Ring exclusive if there isn't already a deal in place with Bandai Namco for the game, which there already could be. Like, Bandai Namco could have publishing rights for Elden Ring 2, and that could be like, well, what are we going to do there? Do we, I know Bandai owns Dark Souls, the IP, so, I mean, Sony does have Demon Souls. Is this a way to finally get a Bloodborne remaster, PlayStation fans, potentially? I don't know, what do you think about this whole rigmarole, about the anime stuff, about what they might do with FromSoft, what Xbox might do to respond? I've seen people suggest that maybe Phil would go in and counteroffer, and I'm like, yeah, I doubt it. I don't think they're any interest in whatever else Kadokawa's doing, so I don't think that's... I think a lot of people live in the pie in the sky thing, like, because they bought Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, that means it's like, they're just going to go buy everything. I've seen people suggest that they're going to buy Take-Two next and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, what makes you think that? Oh, because Phil said he's still open to acquisitions. Yeah, but did you actually listen to what he said when he said that recently? So take it away, Jez. What do you think?
Well, I ain't like... I seen like most of the criticism of this, broadly speaking, revolving around the anime stuff, because if you do have like a single corporate overlord controlling all the anime and what the editorial output potentially looks like, it's gonna put a limit on creativity. And the anime industry in Japan is already like has a lot of issues with profitability and paying people well and all this kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of middlemen involved, which suck a lot of the profit out of the industry. And Sony would just, further compound that. But I am a huge expert on what's going on in the anime industry, so I'm not going to comment on that. One thing like I have got dozens of DMs about is obviously Elden Ring 2 and the implications for what From Software moving over would be. So from what I know, Kadokawa owns something like 67%, I think, of From Software, which gives them, essentially a large
and then
controlling
PlayStation owns like 14% and Tencent owns 16%. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's also a Tencent thing here, and when it comes to value in a company, the value of the company would hinge on its current output, right? So if Kadokawa, and I probably pronounced that wrong as well, but if they do want to buy that company, it will be on the basis of the fact those games are multi-platform. Like people always say, I always see people say things like, "Oh, nobody buys games on Xbox," but evidently they do. Buy games on Xbox. And to the tune of millions and millions of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of content goes through Xbox every single year. And Elden Ring was huge on Xbox. So like if you are sort of thinking, I'm going to buy Elden Ring, the company that makes Elden Ring, and then take Xbox off the table, that, but you've invested in the company on the basis of those sales being there. That's not a smart investment, which is why we're often seeing Bungie games are still coming to Xbox, because the valuation of that company was on the basis of them being a multi-platform studio. So that's why, there was some speculation previously, even I was speculating previously, that Sony could pull Marathon off Xbox, but no, they're not pulling it off Xbox. They confirmed literally in a recent Marathon update that it's still coming to Xbox. And it's sort of and then I spoke to some people about, people in the publishing industry and about all this stuff, to get their take on it, and analysts. And they were just like, yeah, because the company was, the valuation of the shares was on the basis of it being, those games being everywhere.
But wouldn't the same thing have been said about Bethesda though?
Yeah, but it's a different industry now.
Well, that's true.
And also it's a different industry now. But I also think most Bethesda games are multi-platform.
Yeah, now they are.
No, but they beyond what they did with Starfield, but though a lot of those games were always going to be multi-platform. The games that make the money, like 76, Elder Scrolls Online, the mobile games, Fallout Shelter, the TV, and all this other stuff, like a vanishingly small amount actually went exclusive from that acquisition, and also Bethesda's Microsoft was of the frame of mind that we need at least something to show that we're still in the game here. So, personally speaking, I don't think if they did acquire From Software, I don't think, at least in the short term, you would necessarily see stuff like Elden Ring 2 be pulled out of Xbox. What you could probably feasibly see is some of the spin-offs maybe go exclusive. Like Demon Souls. Demon Souls is already exclusive, so you could see a Demon Souls 2 with Miyazaki producing it, maybe with what's the team? Is it Blue Point?
Yes, Blue Point.
Blue Point, the team.
Yeah, they did the remake of that game, of Demon Souls.
Yeah, so with Blue Point leading development or something like that. But there's also like you mentioned, there's a Bandai Namco angle to this, and there's also a Tencent angle. So could Sony buy Tencent out of those shares?
They could.
Or would Tencent have a vested interest in continuing to see that them being multi-platform? And I think they would want to see that studio be as multi-platform as possible. Maybe even Miyazaki himself wants it to be multi-platform. So, as someone who is, has become a fan of From Software games over time, my game of the year for this year is Shadow of the Erdtree.
But
and we'll talk about that discourse.
What?
In a bit. What?
Your game of the year is DLC?
Well, Well, we'll get into this.
Oh my lord, I did not know this.
Well, of course it is. What else would it be?
I'm.
It's one of the only games I've completed this year, so I don't have a huge amount of.
Yeah, so it comes down to the games that you beat, and that's like you count on a handful, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly like playing the most games at the moment. In my role over the last year as manager, I haven't played that many games, but now I'm like executive editor. I have to do less managing. Hopefully, after Black Friday, I'll have a little bit more time for games. But yeah, we'll talk about the whole Erdtree stuff in a minute because I know it's controversial.
Yeah,
right?
and the chat's gonna roast you for that take. Jesus.
No, some people agree, man.
I mean,
some people rightly agree. But I also like chaos, so we'll go with the chaos.
General chaos.
Generalized chaos. But yeah, I ain't particularly, as someone who is a fan of those games, I ain't particularly worried that they'll go fully anti-Xbox with it. But you never know. So Sony could do an analysis and see like, oh, we could really hurt Xbox here. But I also think like the masses, the huge masses like play that game on PC and are more hardcore about it on PC, and when it comes to console, like it's a more of a potentially passive audience to some degree. Like I personally, like just speaking for myself here, like if Elden Ring 2 was PlayStation exclusive, it wouldn't make me run out and buy a PlayStation. I'd just get it on PC.
Some people would though.
Some people would.
Well, you're
but
also,
a lot of those people probably already have a PlayStation.
Sure, but I mean,
I think a lot of people who are worried about exclusives, almost or certainly probably already have a PlayStation. Like most console warriors out there,
this PlayStation
are really multi-platform gamers.
But what if it was for the next one?
What you mean?
PS6.
PS6 exclusive?
Yeah, like Demon's Souls was. The Demon's Souls remake only came to PS5, didn't come to PS4. It still hasn't released on PC as of now. So, like, okay, in my mind, if Sony wanted to be petty, right? So they spent all this money, whatever it's going to cost to buy them. I don't know. I've seen conflicting reports about how much Kadokawa is actually worth. I don't know. I've seen people say it's going to cost Sony $15 billion to buy them, or it's going to cost Sony like $5 or $6 billion to buy them. Either way, it does sound like it's going to cost more than whatever they paid for Bungie. Which, if you spend that type of money, it might just be like, you know what? That studio's set up for multi-platform development. It's where the money is. It's probably what they want to do. We're just going to keep them maybe even separate from PlayStation Studios, and like they're just going to be an independent brand, much like Bungie is or was, I guess. And they're just going to release their games like nothing happened because we spent all this money. And that's just the best way to move forward, right? But then there's also that part where it's kind of like, but this sometimes, like this could be Sony. They could be looking at like, yeah, okay, this is for the anime, right? This is for the anime. This is for the manga stuff. But getting FromSoftware as an additional thing, that's pretty good. What could we do? What could we use this for? And you're right. Like the world has changed. It's not the same as it was in 10 years ago in 2013. Or any of that stuff. But if they were looking at it like, what could we do to really maximize the damage? Like, what if we launched Elden Ring 2, which would be the sequel to one of the highest selling games of this generation, but we launched it as like not necessarily a launch title for the PS6, but let's say it came out for the PS6 like a year after the PS6 came out. No PC version. No Xbox version, no PS5 version. And you leveraged it as a game that has to be must play because the FromSoftware Dark Souls games are usually labeled as that, and this one broke through. So now you have the game that people will be like, okay, well, you're right. Like, oh, well, if they made Elden Ring 2 a PlayStation 5 exclusive, man, it wouldn't even matter because most people own PlayStation 5s. Etc., which you'd be right in. But man, and what if they position it as a PS6 exclusive with no last-gen stuff, and they just threw it out there and be like, it's not coming to PC for a while, and the only place to play it is here, how badly the FOMO would take people, because we gotta play the new software game, and that would be a way to maybe kickstart PS6 sales over PS5 and the current thing. I'm just saying, like, I could imagine that as like a thought, but it very well could come down to like just the amount of money spent, and it was just like, this is probably best for the company and for our own return. But if you want to talk about a game that would sell a new console to people, I mean, you can't get a better one than that. I mean, it's like Grand Theft Auto, and it's, at this point, Elden Ring 2, I would imagine, based on how well Elden Ring 2 did in the past. Do you not agree with me on that?
I mean, maybe, but like at the same time, I also think like, I think I know a lot of people who bought Elden Ring and then didn't
Sure.
leave Limgrave.
Sure, of course, because they were caught up in the hype.
It's hard.
Well, because they were caught up in the hype. They saw those 97 Metacritic scores, and they were like, oh my God, I want to be part of the conversation. This seems like a game of the generation. And they buy it, and they're like, oh, it's just Dark Souls open world, which I don't like, right? So then they stop playing it. I have a couple friends who are like that too. Everybody was playing it in our friend group, and the person was like, I'll get it too. And he literally played it for 5 hours and quit and never went back to it because it's like Dark Souls, and he hates Dark Souls. but that 97 and all those reviews tricked him into thinking that it was something different. I mean, it must have tricked a lot of people, because the difference between sales of the Dark Souls franchise and Elden Ring are absurd, right? So, look, what do I think is going to happen? I mean, I don't know, but if I had to take a guess, I think FromSoftware would just go about doing things like they've recently done. I don't really think anything would change there. Maybe you would have exclusive costumes or something in the PlayStation version or whatever. But then again, I don't know. I mean, maybe they are thinking about the lines of, all right, we can line up an Elden Ring for the PS6 and then get really like that's the game people buy it for. But I don't know. Yeah. Well, we don't even know if it's going to happen, right? That it could easily fall through. The regulators could get a hold of it and be like, we're not going to let you control the anime market, right? So, like, Michael Mooney with the $5 super chat says, Sony made Bungie pay for Bungie. What if regulatory bodies made them pick animation and comics or gaming? Where you separate that. And it's just like, if Sony couldn't get I think if Sony couldn't get the anime portion of Kadokawa, I don't think they're interested in it. I think that's like why they're buying it. And it's why, they're valued so high in the first place. So if it was one of the things where the regulators were like, well, you have to divest yourself of that, but you can still get FromSoftware, I wonder if they still even bother going through with it. Maybe they would. I don't know. But I mean, I'm also of the opinion that I really don't see regulators caring too much about the anime market.
No, I don't think so either.
Which
it's really funny, like how they pick and choose their battles. I don't know if you've seen this, but the U.S. Department of Justice wants Google to sell off Chrome, which is insane.
Yeah, I did see that. Do you think that actually happens?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, there's rumors that Elon Musk and Trump and the Google CEO were recently all on a call together to discuss it. So maybe Trump nukes it or something, But that is something that they want to do, and it's like, well, at the end of the day, it's weird, right? Because it disincentivizes companies to make a popular product. I mean, while I think Google's search monopoly, they have weaponized it without a doubt. But the reason Chrome got popular is because it was fucking better than Internet Explorer. That's the reason it got popular. And the minute the Department of Justice forced Microsoft to get rid of Internet Explorer as the default option, Chrome became the default option because it was just better. And it's so much better that Microsoft itself now uses Chrome as its backend for Edge. So, but then if you tell the companies like, if you make a popular product, we'll force you to sell it off. kind of a weird position to be in, and I hate the fact that I'm defending Google here.
Yeah,
You know, I hate. You know, I
know.
I
mean,
hate
hell,
Google,
you were just
right?
talking to me earlier about how you just had to do something on Facebook or whatever, and I'm like, bro, I know how much you hate Facebook.
I hate Facebook. I hate Google. I hate all these companies, but at the same time, it's like
you're such a weird one. You hate Google, you hate Apple, you hate Facebook, but you love Microsoft. I
don't love Microsoft either. Like Microsoft's like have you not seen my articles about Windows recently?
No.
I think I wrote an article about Copilot the other day, like saying all their AI stuff's trash. I only really like Xbox, and even that, like, I've got reservations about Xbox too. Do I even like anything? I don't know.
You sound like you hate everything, honestly.
I hate everything. Yeah, I'm becoming a curmudgeon.
You are. You're just like old man yells at clouds.
Old man yells at clouds. Yeah. I also, I wrote that article the other week about Xbox's marketing campaign not being good.
Yeah.
Have I written anything positive recently? I don't know.
No, but, you did. You did. The week before.
Booze. I like booze.
The week before, you wrote a positive article about Xbox, about how they had a rough year, but they're ending the year strong. And then the next day was the no red lines, and the next day was the this is an Xbox ad campaign. So,
yeah, Xbox is alive, Xbox is dead. It's that's got to be the way.
Yeah.
If you start feeling positively about Xbox, they have to step on a rake. That's the way it goes, man. But
and if you don't have
the marketing campaign was. It's just timing. The marketing campaign itself is good.
Hey, I mean, it works a little bit better now because you have, we'll talk about the cloud gaming stuff. So it's like getting there, So it's getting there, right? Like being able to play your games everywhere. But I'm going to ask you, that opinion piece that you wrote, did you get any, hear about how internally it was received? I know sometimes they discuss your articles and they're like, fucking Jez, god damn it.
Yeah, it got passed around, I think.
Got passed around. Fucking Jez, god damn it.
I don't know.
Rally up, everybody.
See, the one thing I will say about Microsoft is, especially Xbox at least, they appreciate feedback. Whereas, like, if you write a negative article about Apple, they will cut your ass off. Which is why, like, a lot of these tech YouTubers, they take a really soft touch to Apple, a really, really soft touch. They don't want to get cut off. But Microsoft, like, you can write really mean shit about them,
You can be
as long as it's not like a targeted hit piece against an individual, which I don't think anyone should tolerate. I think that's just mean and nasty. But unless it's like valid, unless they've been like arrested for being a serial killer or something like that.
Right.
But like if you're talking about their strategy and sharing your opinion, Microsoft's like, they're pretty open to feedback, unlike a lot of other tech companies out there. Alvin in chat, who's a member, says Xbox is chilling after that Jaguar ad. Oh man, did you see Jaguar's rebrand?
I mean, I think I saw the Jaguar
rebrand,
and it looked like that was awful.
Oh my god, they've got like
but I haven't seen a commercial. I just kind of saw like the font change, and I'm like, what? How could you?
Oh yeah, the commercial has no cars in it. It's just like a fashion show.
Oh god,
it's fucking nuts. It's like they've completely lost their mind. So like, if you think Xbox's like maybe got issues, like it's bad timing or whatever, Jaguar just like they just wrote the book on how to do a shitty rebrand.
Well, the funny thing about the This Is Xbox thing is, it's kind of funny because it was kind of blown up on Twitter. But Jeff Keighley posted a picture of his PlayStation 5 Pro 30th anniversary edition. Those editions that they're only like 12,000 in existence, and like they all sold out immediately, and the pre-orders were going for thousands upon thousands of dollars, Well, Jeff Keighley got one from PlayStation delivered straight to him, right? So he took a picture of it, and on one of the, I guess like you would call it the fins, PlayStation has that black bracket separating the top and the bottom. It's written in like 30th anniversary or whatever. And Jeff Keighley, so he took a picture of it and tweeted, "If you know, right?" So then Josh Stein took that picture And in the fin where it said 30th anniversary, he wrote, "This is an Xbox," and tweeted it to him. And then literally, like, everybody was like, "What are you doing? I fucking knew it. All Xbox games are going to PlayStation." It's literally just people fighting in the comments. And then, you know, Stein's like, "You guys take this shit way too seriously. I was just having a joke with Jeff." But now I'm telling you, you're going to see articles written about this. You're going to see YouTube videos about this tomorrow. Like, even if it is true, like, even if that's like the plan where everything's going, you know, like, it's just like an employee there posting on his personal account, you know, saying that about a PlayStation 5. I guarantee it, tomorrow you're going to see some website, whether it's WCCF Tech or whatever, is going to write an article of Xbox employee confirms all PlayStation is an Xbox or whatever. And I'm sure it'll pop up in one of the, you know, someone's YouTube video being like, "See, Xbox is dead again," right? Calling it. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Xbox is dead. Xbox is alive.
Xbox is dead. Xbox is alive. Oh, they're dead again. Oh, they're alive again.
Oh, snap. Dude.
What?
So I'm flying over the Irish Sea now. I've been flying for like 2 hours at this point. I'm nowhere near Iceland. And I've only got half a tank of fuel left.
Uh-oh.
My plane's going to crash in the sea. I think in the North Sea. Or is that the Atlantic? My plane's going to crash in the Atlantic before I get to Iceland. Dude, I don't think I'm going to make it, bro.
That sucks.
And what kind of predators are there in the North Atlantic? Great whites?
I think that's too cold for them, right?
Yeah, maybe. Kraken then? Cameron Partlow says, "Just skip your flight ahead." How do I do that?
Yeah, you
How
figure
do
it
I
out.
do that?
We got Christopher with 199 says, "PlayStation fans lost Bethesda RPGs." Shrug. Okay. And
I mean, that is a good point. Like, in theory, they lost those RPGs. I mean, we do think Starfield and Elder Scrolls will at least eventually come to PlayStation, but it's also like nobody rushed out and switched platform for Bethesda, did they? And those games are huge, right?
yeah. Well, maybe I sort of wonder if it wasn't Starfield, if it was Elder Scrolls first. If you'd be saying like a different tune. Because Starfield is still like a new IP. So there's a little bit of caution around it. Where like Elder Scrolls is some people's jam. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
So like maybe people would have, if it was Elder Scrolls 6 that was the game and not Starfield. I guess we'll never know. We have Make It Simple with 198 says, "Avowed Xbox Play Anywhere, let's go." Yeah, I'm gonna assume it is.
Yeah.
Like most Xbox first party games, all of them are play anywhere. Plus, it's gonna be on BattleNet too, as well.
Oh yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
So
did we talk about that before?
Yeah, we did talk about that last week. I wonder if that's gonna be where it's like one of those things where you link your Xbox account so you can, like, are you gonna be able to play Avowed on BattleNet for free if you have Game Pass by linking your account in a similar way like how you can play Diablo 4 on BattleNet? Or are they just going to be like, well, if you want to play it for free and you have Game Pass, just play the Xbox, the version in the PC app on the Xbox store and on PC, you know? How are they going to work that?
Well, there is another sort of vague kind of weird rumor that I've been working with recently.
Oh yeah?
And this is this kind of notion that, you know how Silas says we missed his super chat, so
I got it. I get it. I have it.
One thing I have been hearing is that Microsoft's working on some kind of basically a guide, Xbox guide for other platforms. So like similar to how, you know, like if you're running Call of Duty, for example, there's like an Activision account layer or you're running Fortnite, there's an Epic Games account layer. If you're running an Xbox game on another platform, there'll be an Xbox account layer where it brings up all your Xbox Live friends and, has Xbox Guide stuff in it, Game Pass benefits and all that kind of stuff. Now, would PlayStation block that? I don't know, but the one thing they don't block, sure as hell, is the Battle.net social layer, which, if I'm playing Diablo on Battle.net on PlayStation, then I see all my dudes in there. And you have to assume that one day they're going to link up Xbox friends list to Battle.net friends list. So Avowed might be like among the first games that really test this sort of like, Battle.net is now an Xbox, This is an Xbox, and if Battle.net's an Xbox, a Battle.net game on PlayStation will have Xbox features in it, in theory. So then it starts to become really weird. It's like, well, what is Xbox now? It's just basically your account login and then all your progression and your saves, no matter what platform you're on. So, I don't know. It's an interesting future we're heading towards if they can execute it.
Yeah, we got Silas, been a member for 13 months. He says, if you're a betting man, what game would realistically has the best chance of releasing first? Half-Life 3, a new Banjo, or Jez's AAA Unity game?
Oh man, I don't think that's ever getting made.
Half-Life 3 is a better chance of releasing, for sure.
Than Banjo, you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just sort of feel like with the way they're talking about Half-Life these days, that Half-Life 3 might be on the horizon, and I'm still not convinced Microsoft cares enough about doing a Banjo game.
Oof.
Banjo. I know people are like, put it on Game Pass and people will play it and stuff, and maybe so. I mean, maybe you just make the game to get those people to shut up. Like, hi, here's your game. We did it. It's on Switch. It's everywhere. Enjoy Banjo. We're never doing anything again with this franchise. Hope you like it.
Are you bullying the Banjo Bros, Rand?
No, I mean, they get their game. I'm just saying, like, you see some post by Xbox or by Phil, and you'll see some tweets underneath it and be like, Phil, bring back Banjo. Although Phil doesn't post on Twitter anymore, really, but maybe on Threads or Blue Sky, you'll see like a Banjo gif being like, bring him back. He deserves to have another run,
Yeah.
It's like, okay. We hear you. We'll just do it, and we'll never see from it again. I was like, okay. There's a lot of information that came out about some COD sales, Jez, specifically in the North American market. I don't know if you have seen this or, have any, like, you want to talk about it, but Matt Piscatella said that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 to Game Pass did a few things in the U.S. It resulted in a subscription spending boost, shifted share of full game sales to PlayStation, did not appear to result in massive cannibalization of sales, and did not appear to provide a significant boost to Xbox Series hardware. And then further stuff came out. It was the number one best-selling game of the month, the third best-selling game overall in the year so far, 2024. 82% of Black Ops 6 sales were on PlayStation platforms. And Black Ops 6 sales were up 23% compared to last year's Modern Warfare 3. And I think like subscription spending was up 19% this month. Something like that. So, I don't know, you got any key takeaways from this of like full game sales are 82% on PlayStation, and it didn't cannibalize sales, and Xbox
it blows a lot of
it is the most engaged platform. I've seen people use it to suggest that
right.
This means gaming. Yeah, you did. That means Xbox is dead again, and Game Pass failed. And
wait, what?
Yeah,
even if it boosts sales, it boosts subscription spending without cannibalizing sales. That's the opposite of Game Pass.
But it didn't really boost hardware, which I didn't really expect it to. I don't really think anybody's buying Call of Duty, like picking up an Xbox for Call of Duty specifically right now when you're at the middle of a
No.
generation, when everybody's sort of already decided where they want to play. Now, maybe if you cut off last gen, you might have seen more hardware be sold because people would have to be like, I got to choose to get a Series X or a PlayStation 5, but you know, they're in the money-making business. And I think, as you always say, like, you know, someone on Xbox One or PS4, their money still spends the same, right? Whether or not they're spending it on the Xbox One or the new console. So they may be happy. I mean, looking at last generation, they cut off the Xbox 360 and PS3 3 years in, I want to say, with the Infinite Warfare, because I don't think Infinite Warfare was on the previous generation. I'm trying to remember. Advanced Warfare was, but Infinite Warfare wasn't. And we're, you know what, this is going to be the 4th year. Considering like Warzone is cross-gen and probably will be for a while, I mean, I could easily see them just releasing on last generation for a long time. And, you know, not really caring about selling the hardware or about any sort of, especially if you got to make a Switch 2 port next year, which we would imagine that's going to, you know, because Microsoft has the 10-year deal, right? Or maybe they even launch Black Ops 6 at the launch of the Switch 2.
This is the thing, right? I think people are just going to say Xbox hardware is dying every time they're in third place. Like, even if they're still selling out of all their units. And like, as I look on Amazon in America right now, the only versions of the Series X that's available are bundles, secondhand, or all sorts of weird other weird bundles.
Yeah,
and shit
I don't know. I was hearing for some people that track sales that Amazon is like the one retailer that has some weird stock issues with some of the Xbox products. Like they don't stock the
Series S in stock.
They don't stock the one with the disk drive, like at all. It's not because it's sold out. It's like they don't stock it.
Well, you'd think they would.
Well, they don't. I mean, I saw some people that are like hardcore sales guys that are like, yeah, like Amazon just doesn't stock the disk drive one.
That's really strange.
Something like that. I don't know.
If I go to Microsoft Store, so it's in stock at the Microsoft Store, I think. Yeah, it's in stock at the Microsoft Store. And I suppose it's in stock at places like Best Buy and stuff. But, you know, I do also think, like you say, like, the game's on past gen at 60 frames per second. So for a lot of people who treat COD as a ritual, why bother upgrading, you know? But that's also like why... Oh, crap. Can you still hear me?
I hear you, yeah.
My headset just made a weird noise. Am I running out of battery? No, I'm good. I don't know. My headset just made a weird noise. Yeah, I don't know. I never expected it to absolutely blow up sales. I think that was maybe like the most you could possibly hope for is that it helped Xbox's sales. But people are locked in where they are now. And I think Xbox's install base will probably, as far as hardware is concerned, I think it'll just sort of coast. I don't think it'll shrink significantly, but I don't think it's going to grow significantly either. I think what the only thing you can hope for in terms of making it grow is probably the handheld, because I think that'll help it find a new market, a completely new market in hardware. And then Microsoft will be able to say like, oh, we boosted our hardware by 30% year over year or something when the hardware, and then people will have to say like, oh, actually the hardware is not dead, even if they are in third place. Or maybe the goalposts will move to like, oh, the hardware is up 30% year over year, but they're still in third place. You know, there's still evidently demand for Xbox hardware is the point. You know, and there's people playing on Xbox actively, even if there's not a huge amount of users coming in. But I do think there's a valid concern there. It's like, well, you kind of need new users to be sustainable over long periods of time. Especially like if you're making hardware costs go up, all that sort of stuff, you know. So, and like you know, those little kids, little kids are graduating to PlayStation. If they are graduating to console, more of them are graduating to Windows though. More and more as decent gaming PCs keep coming down in price. decent gaming laptops, decent gaming desktops. A lot more of those kids are graduating over to PC, you know, because they grew up on Roblox and Minecraft, you know, and they want the mods and all that kind of stuff. So it's a weird industry, man.
Well, it's weird because like
that's why Xbox is going multiplayer.
It's the arguments that Xbox presented in the FTC trial basically just played out with this release of this game, because all the things that happened were all the things they said was going to happen. Right? Like it really wouldn't boost hardware that much. People weren't going to switch platforms. All those things. So
I do wonder, like, if they made it exclusive, the thought experiment, because obviously they're not going to do that. But if they did make it exclusive, would that have boosted sales, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like if you could not get the new game on PlayStation platforms at all. Yeah, absolutely would have boosted sales.
Yeah.
We have a super chat here from Achievement who says it's $2. Says it sold 82% on PlayStation platform for just console. Did he specify that? Because I know the chart is for like all copies of the game. Well, obviously the chart's just for the United States. That's just one. But unless he specified in another tweet on Blue Sky, which I don't have, then I'm missing that information. But if you're just, I mean, the chart says like, hey, this is information from PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, and Xbox, where they get the physical and digital stuff. So I'd assume like all the sales that are counted for Black Ops 6 are including PC sales. Maybe not BattleNet sales. Is Black Ops 6 on BattleNet?
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe it wouldn't include those sales. But then again, I don't know. Maybe it would because it says Xbox in these things, right? It says
it's just funny that we agonize over this stuff. Like for Xbox, we agonize over it. We agonize over it.
I'm not agonizing over it. I'm just discussing it.
No, but like, yeah, but I know. But people agonize over it. Like, oh God, what does this mean for Xbox and all this kind of stuff? But like, Steam, who are building, they got Steam OS, which you can run on any device. In that's going to be their future. Nobody's agonizing over that stuff. Like nobody's worrying about Steam's business model, and I get it because it's like we're traditionalists and we want things to be a certain way. But at the end of the day, if I can still get my Xbox games on those devices, even if they're third party, first party, whatever, and it's still got all my content, my save files, my friends list and all that kind of stuff, I don't really care if it's got an Xbox brand on the hardware. I just want it to be good, Like when Steam comes out with a more traditional Steam box console that you can put under your TV, and you bet your ass they're going to do it. There will eventually be a Steam box that can run PlayStation and Xbox games. What does that mean for the industry? What does that mean for it? What does that mean for Sony and PlayStation, Sony and Xbox, where they've given all their exclusives to a console competitor? What universe does that look like? Because it's coming. Definitely coming. It's already here, really. You can dock a Steam Deck to your TV, and then boom, you've got like PlayStation and Xbox's games right there, man.
Yeah.
And Rash Shadow says PlayStation will not allow that. Bro, they already allow it. Steam Deck docked is basically a console. You dock it to your TV. And yeah, Steam Controller 2 is already in pre-production. It's coming, man. Sony will pull their games on a Steam machine. They haven't. It's still on the Steam Deck right fucking now. Right, they're on there right now. So, I don't think they're gonna. I think like that's the future. The future is where your store is. I think where your games are and where your software is. And Steam's pursuing that, and then Xbox is pursuing that as well.
Well, I think PlayStation is pursuing that as well. I think they're just going about it a bit slower.
Yeah, I think so.
Nintendo's the only one that's really not pursuing that. Nintendo's like, well, you want our game, the only place to get our games is on our platform.
Yeah.
But all the other ones are kind of more spreading out. What do you think about
Black Ops 6 is on Battle.net, by the way.
Okay, well, because it says here physical and full game date, full game digital from the Nintendo eShop, PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox platforms for publishers in the digital leader panel. So does Xbox platforms mean Battle.net? Does I would assume it probably does since they own it. So it means all like the PC stuff. But what do you think about Metaphor Refantazio being the 5th best-selling game of the year ahead of Dragon Age? What does that say about? Does it say more about Metaphor and Atlas, that the game sold more, or at least made more money?
Metaphor out longer?
Maybe like a week or two. Yeah. It also charted well on Xbox. I think it was like in the 8th position. And JRPGs typically don't sell the best on Xbox. So, it did make the top 10.
That's the thing. Dragon Age is like, who's it for? It's not for the core fans. It's not for the old school fans, because it's a weird action game. And new fans, it's not for new fans because it requires prior knowledge of previous games, I think, to some degree. Like you said, the ending, you didn't get the ending because you don't know the lore.
Well, the secret.
So like who?
Secret.
Yeah, like who the? Yeah, sure, but like who the fuck's it for? Like the game doesn't know who's it's for. I think it was IGN actually put out an article, and they got clowned for it because their review was quite positive about Dragon Age. But then another writer put out an opinion piece saying Dragon Age doesn't know who it's for or what it's for. Calling it a mess basically. And they got clowned for it. It's like, oh, well, you give it a positive review. And it's like, two different writers can have two different opinions, right? But I do think Dragon Age has... I did not expect Dragon Age... I honestly didn't expect it to do as well as it did. I thought it'd do even worse than this. Why my head making a weird noise, bro?
What's making a weird
noise?
Have you done...
My headset. You've done something to it. You've hacked my headset.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I hear something. I hear beeping.
Well, is your headset about to die?
Headset, no, it says it's got 75% battery. I don't know.
Make it simple.
Dude, we're out of fuel,
that COD bundle would have sold like hotcakes.
Yeah, like a COD bundle for Xbox. Like, why didn't they do that? It's just clear that hardware is not their focus, Which is why I think those questions are valid. When people, when people question Xbox's dedication to the hardware long term, I think it's valid, like for most people, to question that because Microsoft themselves are not exactly talking about it very much. And Satya evidently hates hardware. Like Surface is on its death throes. I doubt we'll see. I think Surface will shut down in the next, couple of years, 3 years maybe.
Yeah.
And it's dumb because you need hardware to have a control of an endpoint. You need hardware to have political clout over other people's endpoints. It's like it's a political thing, to have an endpoint and say like, well, our platform's going to do this, and it forces other people to look at what you're doing and then sort of play ball by it. But if you give away all your endpoints to competitors, then they get to dictate how you can serve your content to consumers, which is the issue they've got with Copilot right now. Like I feel those like AI tools, especially stuff like just for asking random questions, those are going to work best on mobile. Google and Apple ain't going to let Microsoft put Copilot on their shit. They're going to have a Siri AI thing and they're going to have a Google Gemini thing on Android. They ain't going to let Microsoft have Copilot on there by default. So like people are going to have to make the conscious effort to download Copilot on those devices, and they ain't going to do it. They ain't going to do it for shit, And Copilot, I know Copilot's pre-installed on Windows PC, but like, and that's obviously a big endpoint they do control to some degree. But a lot of casual computing has gone to mobile these days, which is why Microsoft bought Activision in the first place, right?
Yeah. There was also, I think we mentioned it before. Well, I mentioned it before, but I wanted to kind of touch on this because the cloud gaming stuff finally happened. Play your own games in the cloud, Jez. Finally has happened.
Yes, it did. I haven't tested it yet, though.
No?
But it had... Oh, no, actually, I did test it. What did I play? I can't remember off the top of my head what I played. I played Genshin Impact, which I suppose isn't my own game because it's free and in the cloud.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't really tested it.
So if you're a
guess.
Game Pass Ultimate member, you can today stream select games through your TV, your browser, or on any supported devices like PCs and tablets in all 28 countries where Xbox Cloud Gaming beta is still available. It's still in a beta, even though it's been around for 5 years now.
Yeah.
But
I can see like I've loaded it up here. So you go to xbox.com/play, and you scroll down a bit, and there's a new section called Stream Your Own Game,
mhm.
and there it shows all the games you own and all the games you can own and buy to play to stream. But it's a bit weird right now because it also has like there's a lot of DLC in there and other sort of bundles and stuff. So there's 3 entries for Life Exchange Double Exposure, for example, and there's like 5 entries for Hitman, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10, 11, 12 entries for Final Fantasy 14. It's like, which one do I buy, Microsoft? Or which one do I even click on? So the fact that it says beta is a good thing because it's pretty messed up right now. But if I go to like a game I don't own, like Phasmophobia, for example, it says show in store, purchase required, $20. This game is a work in progress. It may not change over time. Investigate. Realistic graphics and sound, minimal user interface, blah, blah, blah. You identify 20 different ghost types. A lot of people have recommended Phasmophobia to me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and buy that right now. I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna go YOLO it and buy that game. And now, with the power of the interwebs, I now own Phasmophobia, and I can immediately click play, and it says controller required. So you have to plug a controller in, Bluetooth or USB, and then boom, you can just stream the game straight there. No install required, all that kind of stuff. You might get a queue sometimes if you're in a certain location. No queues where I am right now, and I got 1 GB down, so it plays pretty well. So we've been waiting years for this. They announced this a million
They
billion
announced
years
this
ago.
like what, 2 years ago, I think, right? Or maybe
something
3
like
years
that.
ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was
It was
before
a million billion years ago.
I don't know if it was before or after the acquisition of Activision, but they announced it a long time ago.
It was a long ass time ago.
It's finally here. They do say next year they're going to bring the feature to Xbox consoles and Xbox app on Windows, but for right now it's just in TVs, browsers, and browsers on supported devices like smartphones, PC, and tablets. And there's 50 of them, and they have some pretty good ones here. You got Cyberpunk, you got Witcher 3, you got Baldur's Gate 3. Banisher's Ghost of a New Eden was a game that came out this year that I really, really loved. Animal Well, which is a highly recommended and reviewed indie game. Dying Light 2. Look at all these Final Fantasy games. They must have some deal with Square. Like, they couldn't get these Final Fantasy games. Now suddenly some of these Final Fantasy games are like the first on streaming. You know what I mean? Like, look, Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 just came to Xbox, and they're part of this initial launch.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Like, that is like, that was my dream for years. When they announced the Pixel remasters, like, I want those on my phone.
Even Hogwarts Legacy
right now.
is on here.
Yeah, Division 2, still trucking along.
Prince of
Undertale,
Persia, which is a Ubisoft game. I wonder,
Visions of Mana.
looking through this, I wonder if we can spot any publishers that aren't part of this. Let's see. I don't think there's any EA games. I don't think there's any Take-Two games either. But I could be wrong on that. I haven't seen I'm looking through the list.
No, it doesn't look like it. It's cool to see Ubisoft here because I know Ubisoft's trying to make its own cloud system.
Yeah.
So maybe Ubisoft's just like, we need our games everywhere, anywhere, all at once.
No,
like
actually, there is a 2K game, WWE 2K24 at the very bottom.
And NBA 2K25 is there for me, and PGA Tour 2K23.
That's where. So 2K is there with their sports games.
Yeah.
So okay.
Warner Brothers is there. Mortal Kombat's there.
Warner Brothers.
Oh, and here's a game from Warsaw, Rust. That's there. That's the only thing of note my town has ever produced is the video game Rust.
So I sort of
Quidditch
wonder
Quidditch Champions. I didn't even know that game had come out.
How often this will be updated, though, right? Because when you talk about, play your own games, let's be honest. There's like 7,000 games on Xbox. right? 50. Okay,
That's a lot of
that's a good starting off point. But how long is it going to take to get to even, let's say, half that number, to 20 to 3,000 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that's going to happen in the next 5 years? Do they add games every single month? Is it going to be 50, like 50? They dropping 50 games like in February, then 50 games in, May or something. Like, is it going to be one of those things? Because, and I don't know, maybe people don't care about some of those games or whatever, and they just want the big ones. And this is like a good start, but I don't know. To me, it's like, all right, when we're starting, play your own games, purchase the games. I mean, it's like all of them, and they have a long way to go to get to that point. And I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks the idea of them reaching all the games, and I know it's not going to be all of them because we know there's going to be some publishers that won't be part of it and some devs that don't want it. But let's just say getting to half. For whatever reason, in my mind, that's going to take like five years, if not longer, to get to that point.
Dude, it probably might even take longer because the issue at that point is bandwidth.
Yeah.
Because every single time, because when you boot up a game on xCloud, it's not like those servers have every game downloaded and installed. They come from like a deep storage solution, and they download over an Ethernet cable. So if you're trying to play a game on a node that's best for you that doesn't have the game installed, you'll get a queue, and oftentimes those queues aren't necessarily capacity issues. That's the Xbox literally installing the game. So like it does install quickly because it's coming down through like high speed cables, something beyond Cat 6 probably. So, but like it does take time, and the more games you add, the more issues you're going to have there. Where it's like the server node that's best for your locality has to download and install the game. So the more you add, the more issues you potentially run into. So like there's going to be like a drip feed of games, I think, over time as they scale up their cloud, and scale up the server storage space. So like a lot of these games can be pre-installed natively and stuff like that. But the bottleneck obviously is this is Xbox Series X hardware. I think like when they look ahead to the future and like Xbox Series X, the next gen of xCloud, right, where it's like purpose built, probably PC based servers for xCloud, I do think that's when you'll see a lot of these current gen restrictions sort of lift away. But it also like the business model has to make sense. And right now, while Google and Apple are blocking it.
Yeah, which is why, this isn't, you have to be a subscriber to Game Pass Ultimate, right?
Yeah, it's Game Pass Ultimate, and also this is all browser based. So like these aren't in any of the apps. This stuff is xbox.com/play and all the web apps like the Samsung TV app. So like they can sell DLC, and this is why they've pulled the Android app off Google Play. It's because Google won't let them sell anything through that app. So like it's like the Kindle app on the Amazon Kindle app on Google. You can't buy books through that app anymore because Google won't let them. Which you could argue is anti-competitive, which is why the Department of Justice is investigating them in the first place. But the business model has to make sense too, and I think this today is like probably a loss leader, but at the same time, it's like this is the future, man. The ability to get all of my games, all of my content on any device, anywhere, anytime, is the future, and it is going to take years to get there. It's going to take years and years and years to get there, but this is the bold first step, out of the spaceship. Putting your your boot down on a forbidden planet somewhere, and I'm excited about it, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I think they picked some good ones, and I think you had said months ago that like don't expect a whole bunch of games. This is probably going to be 50 or 100 or something, and you were in the money.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if this is timing. It just seems weird that Xbox finally does this, and then PlayStation also does it. Right alongside of it, because the portal got an update, and now the portal can stream some of the games from the cloud without the need of a console. So PlayStation is now no console needed too, I guess, because you can just get a portal, and you can stream. I think it's like 150 games in the cloud over there. I think is the number. But it's like we mentioned before about like reaching, those places. It's like PlayStation's doing it too. Like they clearly are. Cloud's going to be a thing for them in the future, and going to PC, they're faster and faster. It's just who's going to get there first, and who's going to, I guess, like win. Like is Nvidia might be the one who dominates cloud gaming because their service just might be better, or maybe. I don't know, Game Pass really takes off for whatever reasons because of the Activision and Bethesda stuff. Or maybe whoever makes inroads into India and China and all those places and really gets cloud gaming to actually be like super viable with the good business plan. I don't know. I also kind of look at it like now that the portal has the cloud streaming stuff, it almost is like, oh man, do you think it's one of those like things where you're like, oh man, I wish Microsoft had made something like that now, like an actual gaming device, where it's like, oh, it's a handheld, but it only did cloud streaming, and I think Microsoft had prototypes of that stuff, but they never released any of them.
I do wish that Microsoft had done it, and this kind of shows like how Sony, I think, has a better mentality about hardware than Microsoft does. Microsoft's like a very sort of passive wait and see, and then by the time they've waited and seen, it's too late. Whereas like a lot of these other manufacturers, these hardware manufacturers who understand hardware better than Microsoft, they're coming in, to build up these audiences now, like the Asus ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go. These aren't perfect devices by any means. They've got like terrible battery life. The Lenovo Legion Go's got terrible ergonomics. Doesn't have variable refresh rates, which is also an issue when you're running like a pretty mobile chip. It's essentially at the end of the day. So like frame rate dips are more noticeable on the Lenovo Legion Go than they're on the Asus ROG Ally. There's all sorts of issues with these devices, but they still understand like this is how you grow an audience for these devices. You have a early adopter phase, your influencer phase or whatever. And then like there'll be a lot of people out there just like, well, I'm going to follow this and wait and see, and then upgrade when I can. And I feel like Sony gets that more than Microsoft does, which is like Sony's like gone ahead with this. Sony knew they were going to activate cloud streaming on that thing eventually. They've timed it pretty well, I would say, given the situation. But I don't know. I wish Microsoft had done one, but that's what the Logitech G Cloud's for, I guess. For now, even though that device is great, like it's got crazy battery life and it runs well, xCloud, but man, it is ugly. It's an ugly, ugly device. Microsoft should do like a black Xbox edition of the G Cloud, man.
Of the what?
The G Cloud, the Logitech G Cloud.
Oh, the G Cloud thing. Yeah, it's just weird to see people like suddenly embrace cloud gaming. Like it was always one of these things where it was like, oh, cloud gaming sucks or whatever. But people, I don't know, the more and more I think people get used to it, it does seem like people are enjoying it more, or like people really do seem to like NVIDIA GeForce Now. And I've seen a lot of people super happy that the portal can do what it does now. So it's just like, I guess we're just going to be in that situation. Like 10 years from now, people move, cloud gaming is the way we play. And I'll be sitting here being like, what about the console, or like the hardware? And it's just going to be like, nope, cloud gaming, that's the future. And it's the funny thing is because I didn't care when music went from CDs to streaming like that, or even like went from CDs to like digital with like the iPad or the iPod and stuff to streaming, and movies went from physical and then basically everything streamed. I didn't care about any of those things, not because I didn't care about music or movies, but because I know the experience felt the same. I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, I can sit there and listen to all the songs at a push of a button. It takes less space. I don't need to have like all these things cluttering around my room or with me in the car. Like, you'd have to be in the car with your CD player and you have like all your burned CDs or all the CDs that you bought, so you put in the CD player so you can play your music or whatever, right? And it's like, get rid of all that stuff, and it was like great, and everybody sort of, I don't want to say loved it, but at least accepted it to the point where it became the dominant mode of consumption. And it's like, will gaming feature the same? It's like, will people actually expect, like, will it make that jump like music and movies where streaming it is the default way you play it? And I always felt digital would be the default way people would interact, because when you give people a choice of convenience or ownership, people always choose convenience. And I think digital is more convenient than physical. But then I guess what's even more convenient than digital ownership is like what Jez just did. Just bought it and pressed the button. No installs, no waiting. I don't have to install 200 gigabytes. I can just immediately play now. I just sort of wonder if we're ever going to be at that point where that's just the normal. And we'll see a report from, I don't know, Matt Piscatella and all these places of like 60% of the players playing Call of Duty were playing through cloud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, will we ever get to that point? Will we ever get to the point where even the console manufacturers are like, cloud's such a big thing now, we're reaching only so many people, it's not even worth doing hardware. It's like not even worth doing the R&D. We're just going to get rid of it. It's because everybody's on cloud now. Or is that such like a pie in the sky thing where cloud's only really going to be an additional aspect to everything else that it does,
I personally think it's always going to be additional. And the reason for that is like we've kind of already hit the limits of what cloud can deliver potentially to some degree, because it's fiber optic can't get any faster. Light travels at finite speed at the end of the day, and the laws of physics preclude cloud from delivering a native experience. So I think it will always be additive, and yeah, things will get better, especially like the wireless signals will get better, video encoding will get faster, and all that kind of stuff will get better. Like if Microsoft does do a direct to Wi-Fi cloud game controller, that eliminates a middleman from like every nanosecond of latency you shave off does help, but I don't think it's ever going to be the default, and it needn't be the default, because if you align cloud servers with the development environment of local hardware, it should in theory be cheaper and more profitable to sell those games directly to consumers and sell that hardware directly to consumers. I think hardware could get more expensive when it becomes more of a niche thing. But I think local hardware will remain a thing. Fantastical says, Jez, what happened to Bethesda's Orion technology? Was it just a nothing burger? If you remember a long time ago, Bethesda showcased some cloud streaming technology they were working on for Doom, and showed how it was like really fast and all that kind of stuff. I think the issue with Orion was it's one of those things that works great in a tech demo, but perhaps isn't scalable or realistic to scale at scale. Like for what constitutes a business model. So it probably wasn't a nothing burger, but it probably just wasn't something that could turn into a product. But I have no idea, ultimately. I need to ask around some people.
Also wanted to talk about Avowed because a previews came out for it. A lot of outlets, some creators got hands-on.
I'm going to have to defer to you on this because I haven't really read any previews. I'm trying to... I am trying a little bit.
I don't know. Bring up Google and type in Avowed and just see what the headlines are for a lot of the previews.
Yeah, they were positive. I saw the headlines.
I talked to Colt and Cog about it. They both loved it. Like Colt, like he was sad it was taken away from him because like he only had access to it up to a certain point, right? And he's oh my god, I just want to keep playing. And Cog had nothing but praise for it. I was...
Destin Legary said the demo was 2 hours, but I managed to clock up 10
Yeah,
hours in it.
like you
just
could go
exploring.
keep on like exploring in the area and doing more things or something, but a lot, I would say the vast majority of the previews were pretty positive. There were some that were like, oh, I saw Eurogamers that said it's not really unique, but that's okay. It's gonna be fine. It's like, are we bashing games now because they're not unique enough? I mean, if that's the case, then wouldn't every game's has been copying from other games? I don't know, but it definitely seemed, from what I had seen, like people are really surprised by how fun the game was. Kotaku's like headline was, "I can already tell that Avowed is one of the best games of 2025," which
High praise.
it's pretty high praise. So a lot of the previews were pretty positive. I watched some of the videos, and I don't know. The more I was watching, the more interested and I was getting into the. I was like, you know what, this might be something, because I don't know, like some of the the videos, the trailers I've seen of the game, really, I don't know, it really didn't sell me on it, right? The previous trailers, but the kind of watching people play, hearing their thoughts about the 2 hours, especially for considering I just played a game, Dragon Age, which here we talk about Dragon Age again, but that's what it is, that has companions that you bring along with the dialogue. And a lot of the complaints that some people have, including myself, is that some of the dialogue can kind of be shitty. But like you listen to some of the dialogue here and it's a lot better, and that you can expect like the choice and consequence for your actions to mean more in an Obsidian game, right? And I thought that
Well, that's one thing I was impressed with Stalker. It was like, oh wow, my decision actually had an impact within a short space of time, whereas like I think it took like 10 hours for any of my decisions to materialize in Dragon Age, even though in Dragon Age it has a little indicator to tell you when one of your decisions mattered.
it does.
And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
the combat looks a lot better. I will say, I think when we talked about the game after the Dev Direct, I think one of our complaints was that the combat looked, what was the word we used for it? The combat, it just didn't look good, or it kind of looked clunky in a way. But they've definitely spruced it up. It has this, like, when you're, the swords have like an impact now, judging from the videos, where like you swing at somebody and the sword looks like it's slowing down when it hits somebody. Like it's actually, there's an actual physical thing in front of it, and the sword's reacting like how a sword would, where it's like, okay, you can see the impact, you can feel the impact. So the physical stuff has a weight to it, which I think was missing from those original trailer back in January, where it kind of felt that like the combat really didn't have that weight to it, at least judging from what I was watching. But yeah, super colorful. I thought the voice acting was well done. Your companion that's with you's Garrus from Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just obviously just a taste. I don't know how long the game is, because I think the game's been described as like wide linear, and I know a lot of people will compare it to like, oh, this is Obsidian wanting to make their own Elder Scrolls, right? But it's really not. It's not Elder Scrolls, even though like we love as humans to compare things to one another when we're trying to explain it to something. Like, oh, it's just like this. It's just like they wanted to make
fantasy Outer Worlds is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, fantasy Outer Worlds is probably a good.
I loved Outer Worlds. My issue with Outer Worlds was the combat. The only issue I had with it, like I felt like all the guns felt kind of lame in the Outer Worlds, but everything else about it was great, I thought. So like if it's that with better combat, then I'm all for it, man. Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, is this a game that you're looking forward to, considering your history with Obsidian?
I mean, yeah, my history with Obsidian is not going to stop me from enjoying one of their games. Like I love Pillars of Eternity. Doesn't bother me, but whatever. They want to hate me for doing my job.
I know, it's just one of these things where people are constantly maybe underestimating Obsidian, and I guess maybe some of that has to do with like, we always just say Arcane doesn't miss, right? Because they didn't miss. They hadn't missed until they did Redfall. But like previously, their track record was impeccable, And Obsidian's track record is pretty impeccable. In fact, I think I told you before the show that the game I started last night was South Park Stick of Truth, which is an Obsidian game. And it's fantastic, you know? It feels just like a South Park episode. It looks like a South Park episode. And it's just like, yeah, I totally forgot when I loaded it up. I was like, oh, Obsidian did make this. Like, this is really good. But I feel like people underestimate them every single time. Like, Outer Worlds is like, and then you play it like, oh, this is really good. In fact, so good it was nominated for Game of the Year in 2019. Grounded, people looked at what, Grounded looked like with the characters and stuff, and it was memed. And then Grounded came out, and they kept on working on it. And by the end, it was like, hey, this is a pretty damn good survival game. Or just game in general. Then it was Avowed, and yeah, I guess you could argue that the initial trailer that showed in 2020, where it had like a darker, meaner tone to it, right? Versus like the trailer they showed, what was it, like 2 years ago, where it was a lot brighter. So it kind of lost that dark edge that maybe people expected. It was like, oh, this is it. I don't know about this. It doesn't really look like right. But now you get your hands on it, and you're just like, man, this is a lot of fun. I wish I could play more than 2 hours. Obsidian again, and it's just like, yeah, like, there's a reason they're considered one of the best at what they do. I guess it just depends on if you're interested in a fantasy setting or if you want a more science fiction dystopian setting, right? Some people are going to be like, no, Outer World is more my thing because I want guns, right? I want that.
But there are guns in there.
Well, yeah, I guess there are guns in this because you can use pistols and you can use rifles and stuff. But I what I mean by guns, like more modern guns, space guns and stuff.
Space guns.
Because I've always told you about Bethesda, is that like I like Elder Scrolls a lot more than I like Fallout. Because I like the setting of Elder Scrolls more than I don't really like that post-apocalyptic world that they've built for Fallout. So I could also see like, hey, this world, the fantasy world, I don't really jive with that, but give me sci-fi and I'm good, right? Because that is there is some truth to that, at least for me. I mean, the world and where it's set really does matter, and how involved I can get. I guess maybe that's odd for me saying that, considering I love reading fantasy books, but that's just kind of how it is. I don't know, I'm just not really into the post-apocalyptic stuff, but yeah, I mean, Avowed's going to also have its challenge because it's coming out jam-packed February between Civilization 7 and what else is coming out? Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Yakuza pirate game, and Monster Hunter Wilds. So like February's packed. But I mean, it does have the one thing that all the others don't, which is that it's on Game Pass, so you can, you don't have to spend your money on it if you don't want to. But there's a lot of games coming out. And, I think our fear was that, did it separate itself enough from all those other games where you would be like, that's the game I want to play, and that's the game I want to spend my time on, and that's the game I want to spend my money on. And the jive I get from reading some of the previews and watching the videos is like, yeah, it has. That this game's going to be, it's going to be a really good video game. So, interest is way up in it. For me.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there were a couple other like negative ones. Like some people were mixed on. There weren't like I didn't see any outright like super negative ones where it was like, oh, this is shit. But there were some people that were like, I don't know. I mean, some of it's good, some of it's not. But the vast majority I saw were like, yeah, this is my jam. This seems like it's going to be really good, and I want to play more. So,
yeah. But dude, I'm pissed.
What happened? Did your plane crash into the ground? Did you not make it to Iceland?
Okay, so I decided that I'm not gonna wait, right? Because it would have taken a million hours. So what I thought was, I'm just gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna skip ahead, like someone suggested in chat, and go to find the lava. But I'm here now, where there's meant to be lava, and I know I'm in the. I've looked up the exact coordinates of the current eruption in Grindavik in Iceland, and there's nothing. There's no lava there at all, bro. This car park is meant to be submerged in liquid magma, and it's not. So
they lied.
0 out of 10. 0 out of 10 game. There you go.
Okay.
Unless I'm doing something wrong. I've got at first I thought I don't have live weather turned on. I turned on live weather. But yeah, there's still no lava. Can't find any lava in a place where there's meant to be lava. So I'm upset, bro. 0 out of 10. 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. All right.
0 out of 10. No lava.
Well, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Make sure you check out our Patreon content at patreon.com/XB2. 15% off right now. Whole bunch of extra shows to listen to and stuff. Get your questions in or shout outs or any of those things that you want. All there available. And I figured, let's take some questions, Jez, because it is later for you. We had to delay the show an hour. So we get through the questions so you can go to bed because I know you're a tired boy. So, we have Randall Beta Ray Bill, who says, if there was one game series you could wipe from your memory so you could play and experience it again for the very first time, what would it be? Jez? Are you wiping your memory of World of Warcraft so you can experience it again the first time? Although I think if you wiped your memory of World of Warcraft, you'd probably load that up and be like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah, I mean, World of Warcraft Classic was a product of its time. So like, if I wiped my memory of it and played it now, I'd probably like, oh man, this sucks. I really don't know. I suppose it'd be kind of cool to wipe my memory of Cyberpunk and play it now with all the polish.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think some of those.
You don't know what you're missing out on, bro.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have played it again since the polish, but I think some of those moments that hit really hard in the original, I did have issues like with cutscenes sometimes glitching out that was supposed to be a motive when I first played it. And like some of those moments were just kind of ruined by glitches. So maybe Cyberpunk for me. What about you?
BioShock. It'd be BioShock. Experience that again?
Yeah, BioShock.
Absolutely.
I'm shocked. I'm BioShocked. I haven't remade that game. You think that'd be a prime candidate for a modern Unreal Engine?
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be making a BioShock 4, but it seems to be taking forever. And even the creator's making a BioShock in space named Judas.
Yeah, BioShock alike.
But I am surprised there hasn't been like a BioShock remaster. I mean, they did one during the Xbox One gen, and I think they got the resolution up to 1080p and it runs at 60 frames, but you figure you could probably do it again and get it up to 4K or something. Whatever it would be. But yeah, my answer would be BioShock. We got Silas. Says, happy Thanksgiving, Rand, and work my ass off Thursday, Friday, Jez. When people talk about video games that change the industry, we usually spit out Mario 64, Minecraft, GTA 3, Minecraft, PUBG, Fortnite, but I don't hear Half-Life 2 mentioned much. I like to argue that it has been the most influential game in modern gaming. Maybe not the game itself. Yes, it had the physics and the bells and whistles of the Source engine, but how its release fundamentally changed the business of gaming. Gamers like Jez are probably too young to realize, but release of Half-Life 2 came Steam. It mainstreamed how games were distributed, allowed devs and publishers a way to publish content quickly, added a somewhat moderated marketplace, a streamlined way to publish patches and updates, gave devs a platform for early access with digital distribution. Steam sales became part of the gaming lexicon and provided a template for Xbox PlayStation to create digital storefronts. Where would PC gaming be without Steam? Going further down the line, today's handheld PC market is booming because of the Steam Deck. Without the success of Steam, Valve doesn't have the ability to create the deck. Where is that market now? I could go on. What say you?
That was interesting.
That was a love letter to Gabe and Steam. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it's undeniable the effect that it's undeniable the effect that Steam has had over gaming, and I would argue that Steam has been a really positive force for developers and developer tools and improving the experience, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of sad that Microsoft had the opportunity to give developers that kind of focus and give them a platform where they could distribute games on Windows. But like Microsoft just never took any of that shit seriously, and in some ways still don't take it seriously enough, or still don't invest in it enough on the back end. But Steam is I think in giving competition there, like developers love Steam, and obviously like the popularity of Steam has led to issues with curation and that kind of thing, right? But it's a fantastic platform. So, but thinking about, I suppose, we can. It's hindsight's 2020, so we can always like, what would the industry look like without Steam? I think the industry would look a lot less consumer friendly without Steam, honestly, for one thing. But I think moving forward, I think again, Steam's going to be instrumental in pushing forward this sort of vision that Microsoft has, where it's the games you own and the storefront everywhere. And I think Steam's going to be the platform that really gets that right first, before Microsoft maybe even. And especially because Steam's managed to get Xbox and PlayStation's stuff without having to fire a bullet, this metaphorical bullet. So I think Steam's still got a load of room to upend the industry. Especially like it would be the biggest slap in the face to PlayStation and Xbox if they're like PlayStation and Xbox bent the knee and brought their games to Steam, and then Half-Life 3 ends up being Steam box exclusive, Steam OS exclusive. So like you have to buy it from Steam on Windows, and then it just doesn't come to console. That would be the ultimate slap in the face. And then like launch Half-Life 3 with like a more traditional Steam OS console, because Steam's tried the home console thing before, like with the Steam Machine stuff. But one of the issues with hardware is get distribution. Like the Steam Deck's only recently launched in Australia, for example, and like hardware distribution is the most difficult piece of that puzzle to set up. But they've got the experience now with the Steam Deck, and they're going to get more experience with the Steam Deck and more experience. And when they start releasing more traditional consoles, they're having more experience. Like Steam is the one to watch, So I think even though Steam's history has been interesting, watching them upend the industry, it's the future that's going to be really, really interesting, I think.
I think even at the time, because Half-Life 2 came out in 2004, if I remember correctly, right? It was like 2004. And Steam was a disaster when it first came out. But there were articles and stuff even back then about how PC gaming was dying. And I really do think Steam saved PC gaming. Because, Microsoft came up with their own Windows Live stuff, but like nobody cared. Because they had the alternative, right? Remember, it was like Windows Live for gaming, I think was the branded thing that Microsoft tried to do. So I sort of feel like if Steam didn't come around or Valve didn't do it, then I don't know where PC gaming is at this point.
Games for Windows Live is a default.
I don't think so. Like, because remember, you had to pay for online with Windows Live for gaming, I think it was.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it was anti-consumer.
I don't think that would have taken off. But maybe it would have if it was the only storefront. But I mean, Steam was going by then. So I'm just saying, like, if Steam didn't come around, I think PC gaming's in a way, way, way worse place right now. But it does exist, and I mean, Silas is right. I mean, they've done a lot. So, we got Ryan Kipple. Hey guys, been a while since I posted a question, but I hope you all are happy and healthy these days. Is there a reason why more companies don't do an early access period? From a novice layman's point of view, it seems like an obvious way to avoid this cycle of fully releasing broken products and apologizing for it afterwards. Yeah, I guess that's an interesting question in the wake of Stalker 2. Why not release Stalker 2 early access?
Early access.
So
Yeah,
like you
I
can explain away some of these bugs as like, okay, this is just the early access phase.
mm,
What do you think?
I honestly don't know the reason why more companies don't do it. I know why they don't do it on Xbox. They don't do it on Xbox because it's a pain to set up an early access
Like the
game on
game, like to
Xbox.
set up a game preview game on Xbox.
Yeah, it's a pain. So like they don't do it because it's
And
difficult to set
PlayStation
up.
doesn't really have one.
Yeah,
And
and
I don't
PlayStation
think
doesn't have a game preview
and
program.
Nintendo doesn't, or I don't think.
Yeah, but Steam has a really good, robust game preview system where you can launch separate branches, you can revoke those branches, and and Xbox has one too, but it's like on the back end, from what I heard, it's not very good, and also nobody really uses it. Um, so I suppose like one of the reasons is that you're pretty much locked to Steam if you do that, and also I think there's probably some at least, um, I don't know. You could say it's like, but it's perhaps it's unfounded fear, but there's probably some fear where it's like, oh god, if we launch it now in this state, we will miss the hype cycle. There's definitely been games that have launched. Um, there's definitely been games out there that have launched in early access and just fizzled out to nothing. You know, and obviously we only really hear about the success stories of early access because you don't hear about the failures of early access because they were failures, right? There's tons of games in early access on Steam that just never materialize. And like when you buy an early access game on Steam, you have to sort of agree that you have to sort of agree that the game might not launch, like Kickstarter and stuff. So I think some devs just think of it as a risk, and maybe they're right, in some circumstances. Like for example, No Rest for the Wicked, for example, that's launched in early access. And I think that's quite a risk for them, especially considering what's it called? Um Private Division. Private Division has sort of shit the bed now,
Yeah. Well,
which
also,
leaves No Rest for the Wicked in a weird position.
well, also maybe like you release. At least I remember about No Rest for the Wicked. No Rest for the Wicked was there was a lot of hype when it came out to early access, but that hype seemed to die off completely like right away.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the risk of early access. I think
Now, I mean,
some games
you
like they
could
cut through it, but others
you could
aren't gonna
regain that
cut
hype
through it.
when you release a 1.0 version and you release it everywhere. But it seemed like people were. I remember everybody talking about No Rest for the Wicked, and then boom, it came out, and people were like, "It's too difficult or too
Not for
grindy,
me.
or not for me." And then boom, nobody's playing anymore. So there's pluses and minuses for everything. But yeah, I mean, at least you could, if you did early access, you'd be like, hey, that's just. I don't know. I don't think if you're going to do early access, I think you'd have to do it for a while. Like, you could set it up and be like, we're going to be in early access for a year. I don't think you could be like, we're launching in early access, and then 2 weeks later is like the launch. Because then people would just be like, well, wait a minute. Like, you just did that so it's like nobody could complain. Plus, usually aren't like the releases in early access also cheaper?
Yeah,
They're usually at a
yeah.
discount. So you could get it now and then you have the full game when it releases. But yeah, at least there's not the stigma around early access like there was in the beginning. Like, it seems very like people have accepted that, okay, this is a thing that can be good. So
yeah.
We have Omen says, is it worth playing the original Stalker trilogy before playing Stalker 2? I know Stalker 2 is a bit of an independent story, but I'm curious if you think the OG Stalkers are worth playing in 2024.
Now I've been playing the OG Stalker, the very first one. I never played the original when it first come out, or I did, but not much. So I don't feel really qualified to answer this, but I have been playing the original Stalker a bit on Xbox, and I would say that it probably hasn't aged particularly well. But there's a lot of really cool, important lore that's worth knowing, especially going into Stalker 2. But there's a lot of great videos on YouTube that are just like that recap the high level story aspects of the game. And and it might be better to just do it that way because it is kind of the same map at the end of the day. It's still Chernobyl, you know. It's not anything different. So, but some Stalker players might disagree, and they might be like, "Nah, you should play it." But personally, I think just watch a YouTube recap and go straight into Stalker 2. Personally,
Yeah, that'd probably be what I would do. We have Just James 93. Hey guys, obviously Rand isn't bothered about this, but Jez, have you tried the streaming for your own games yet? I played on Final Fantasy XIV on my phone through their web, and it worked perfectly. Do you think they will add it to the Android app or the other phone company?
they're not going to add it to the Android app because Google won't let them. So I don't think they're going to do that.
And they're definitely
But
not
what
going to
do you-
add it to iOS, right?
No. I can see it being pre-installed as a web app with Samsung devices. Samsung's gone quite hard on promoting this actually as a because they've still got exclusivity for the TV version. Like a lot of people were thinking like the LG TV version is going to come out soon because they found some code strings in the app that refer to LG TVs, and I think it will come to LG TVs eventually. But for right now, Samsung has exclusivity, so I could see a scenario where maybe Microsoft has it pre-installed on some Samsung devices for people, but I don't think it's ever going to be in the Android store. I don't think Google will ever allow that because they are Google, and I also, yeah, I don't know about what that looks like beyond that. I do think that eventually Microsoft will probably make a cloud-only device themselves, probably. They'll probably be like, if they do a handheld, they'll probably be like a premium native version and then maybe a cheaper cloud-only version, I imagine. But we'll have to wait and see how all that goes down. You know, Rand, they did actually announce some hardware this week, Microsoft did. I don't know if you saw this, Rand.
Is it Xbox related?
Kind of.
Okay, what was it?
They announced a Windows Cloud PC.
Okay.
So basically, it doesn't run Windows natively. It runs Windows in the cloud. So, you know, you can subscribe to Windows 365 with like this very tiny sort of looks like Project Hobart. Do you remember that? The cloud streaming
Yeah,
device
how
that
could I
Microsoft
forget
was making?
Project Hobart?
Yeah. So so it's like a little hockey puck that runs Windows, man. So technically it could also run xCloud. There you go. There's
right.
your xCloud streaming device. Although it's $360, I think.
Jeez.
Not the cheapest PC in the world.
Next up, we got PandaMan77. Says, love the show. Streaming your own games is pretty sweet. I'm disappointed that EA has not really signed up, though, based on the game list. You think it would be at importance as you can't play EA games on a Steam Deck. Do you think EA will come over to stream your own games, or are they just against it? Interesting to see 2K and Ubisoft all in. My initial thing was when, you know, we heard all publishers won't be on board, was the two that I had like picked out that wouldn't be a part of it was EA, Take-Two, and Ubisoft. So it's nice to see that Take-Two and Ubisoft have some games in there. So I guess EA, I don't know, I feel like EA, I don't know, it's not like EA's doing their own, it's not like they have their own thing. Or maybe they're developing one. Or maybe they want Microsoft to pay for it and Microsoft's not going to do that or whatever.
I would have thought they'd at least be on board to test it out.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, like, I always think of like EA as a greedy company. And
yeah.
You know, that they would want more for putting their games into place where maybe, I don't know. Is it something that can happen down the road? Potentially. Maybe if this catches on and you could show data to people that, oh, you might actually sell these games to people who don't play, then EA might be interested in being like, let's get FIFA and Madden or FC and Madden in front of these people so they can become, you know, gamble with ultimate teams and stuff. But I kind of just see them sitting out on it.
Yeah, we'll see.
We have good old Collinwood. Happy upcoming Thursday, or Thanksgiving, Rand Jez. With the comment about the red line by Phil Spencer, it sounds as if there will be no limit to what games Xbox will port to other consoles. But because you can, doesn't mean you should. One factor missed out in discussion is that it takes resources to port a game. You need time, money, and the programmers to be able to make the effort. This is not to mention there should be a need for that game on another platform. That's why Sony has Nixxix Studios to port PlayStation Studio developed games to PC. Does Xbox have the same resources, though? Which studios have the know-how and the resources to be able to port? We know that Activision and Machine Games have that expertise. It sounds to me, though, that the trio of Halo, Gears, and Forza would need substantial investment for this to happen. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, that is kind of what I did. I can't remember if we spoke about this on XB2 plus 1 this week, or if we talked about it last week. But I said something along the lines of, it's still going to be a case-by-case basis.
You did. You said that. No, you actually said that on Xbox 2, and you were clipped for it by, those guys that exist to only clip stuff, and they were making fun of you for saying that. So.
Oh no, my fifis.
Yeah.
My fifis are hurted.
Yeah, they clipped that.
Anyways,
we're like, Jez think this is case by case.
Yeah, but it is case by case, and that's one of the reasons it's going to be case by case, because it does take developer resources. There are some developers that are set up for simultaneous development, and maybe in the future they will expand to multi-platform simultaneous development. But look how long it's taking Square Enix. Like, bringing games to other platforms is not just a case of like click a button and it's done. If
export and compile, right? Compile and export.
Boom, yeah.
Done, finished.
I mean, one of the reasons like Unity got popular is because Unity does have this like export for specific devices feature. But even then, it's like there's still work involved to make that happen, So, yeah, I think it's, at least in the short term, there will be a developer resources issue. But I do think long term, it probably will be a case of like, okay, so we're gonna eventually get to a point where we are porting things almost immediately to PlayStation, probably. But nobody knows for sure what Microsoft's thinking right now, what their long-term thought process are. But at least for right now, it's case-by-case basis. But I do think they'll still hold some things back, just to keep them in the game.
Josh Stein just said PS5 is an Xbox, bro. So,
well, there you go.
Well, you're right. Like, porting a game, you need extra. You need the time to do it. You need extra money because you need people to do it. You need the programmers to be able to do it, right? And Bethesda and Activision are already set up for multi-platform development. It's sort of one of the reasons we talked about FromSoftware. About they exist as a multi-platform publisher, right? They staffed up to reach that point. And if you wanted to make them exclusive, well, do you need all those people? Probably not, because if you're just going to work on a single as on a single platform, and if you have Nixxix who's doing all your ports, you're probably going to downsize, right? Which wouldn't be a good thing. So maybe you just keep them as is. And I think, we do know like a lot of Xbox development is also co-developed. And I think it wasn't even Rare that even did the port for Sea of Thieves for PS5. It was a different studio. That's usually how those things happen. I could see that probably, like, if Hellblade 2 comes to PS5 next year, it'd probably be a different studio that does the port, because they might be doing other things, and or maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's usually another studio that does the port if you're not doing it like simultaneously. But if you were going to do it all simultaneously, yeah, I guess you would have to do an investment in it to get all that going all up at once. And what studios have the know-how and the resources to be able to port it? Well, obviously the publishers, but does Coalition have the knowledge? I mean, they have never put anything on PlayStation. But then again, like, do they have to be the ones that make that port? They could easily just hire a third-party studio to make the port for PlayStation. Right?
You think they'll be doing more of that stuff? I mean, the Clippers are just cringe, and it's not like I said that. It's not like I said they were never going to put the games on PlayStation. It's still going to be sort of like I more meant it like what is timed exclusive and what is simultaneous launch. That's going to be a case by case basis. I would I'm kind of the opinion that Elder Scrolls 6 could be a simultaneous launch, for example, but it also could very well not be. Maybe Bethesda liked developing Starfield in a vacuum. Did you get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Did you get it?
There's also a Starfield update today or this week. They announced 15 million players, and there's like a free quest for people to try out.
Bro,
yeah. What?
Did you not like my joke?
I mean, Starfield in a vacuum.
Space, because it's
Space V in a vacuum.
Space.
Yeah. If you have to explain the joke,
come on,
Jez,
that was fucking funny, man.
If you gotta explain the joke, Jez, come on.
I'm fucking dying out here, bro.
Make better jokes.
That was a kingly joke right there, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
We have Governor Grimm. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Except for you, freedom-hating and redcoat Jez. Freedom-hating redcoat Jez. I'm hyped for Indiana, Avowed, and South of Midnight. Which games of those three are you most looking forward to? On Jez's vacation, we will get a release date for Gears Z-Day and Xbox, PC, PlayStation, and Switch 2. So he's already making his prediction about what's going to leak and come out during your vacation. So out of those three, I'm most looking forward to Indiana Jones.
Damn.
Which is coming soon, really. So we don't have that long to wait. And I know you're probably going to... No, I think you're going to say Indiana Jones too, actually.
Of the games that are coming out soon?
No, out of these three, Indiana, Avowed, and South of Midnight.
Man, it's really tight between Indiana Jones and Avowed, actually, because I am a big Pillars fan. So, and I'm also, that's more my genre, like open world RPG where your decisions matter and you can be an asshole. You can't be an asshole in Indiana Jones. You can be a bit of an asshole, but you got to be the hero, right? So while I am really looking forward to Indiana Jones, I think Avowed edges it out, actually.
All right. Let's see. We have Rave Damos saying, Happy November, gents. Jez, with the Stream Your Own Games library, how will the library get updated over time? Will it get updated monthly like Game Pass? Or will it get updated more like backwards compatibility program in chunks with big stretches in between? Or will it be a slow, inconsistent trickle of titles? Stay awesome, gents. Love listening to the show and the guests.
Honestly, don't know, So I'm going to ask that question for you now and see if I get an answer.
There's a part of me I think it's the second one. Updated more like the back compat program, where it's a bunch of games in one go, but then you may not see any updates for like 3 or 4 months or something. I really don't see it being updated every month for like Game Pass is. But maybe I'm wrong. You should ask that question and find out.
Yeah, let's see if we get a good answer. But we might not because it's Friday.
It is Friday.
Is Black Friday the same as Thanksgiving?
No, Thanksgiving is Thursday. It's the day before.
So why is it called Black Friday? Is it because that's when all the turkeys get killed?
No. That's a good question. Let's Google it. Why?
You don't know?
I'm not sure.
Do you not know American history?
Why is Black Friday called Black Friday? Okay, the term Black Friday originated in the 1950s when the Philadelphia police used it to describe the chaos that occurred the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh.
The crowd.
So
the police
I
had
thought
to
it was
control
a historical thing.
The police had to control the crowds of shoppers and tourists who came to the city for the Army-Navy football game. The influx of people caused a logistical nightmare for the city's infrastructure. The term gained popularity over time, but retailers were initially upset about the negative connotation. They tried to rebrand it as Big Friday, but that effort failed. Eventually, retailers adopted the term and rebranded it as a positive concept, associating it with being in the black or profitable.
So I literally thought it was something like the pilgrims died of starvation, like the Black Death, you know. I thought, and it was like everyone buys stuff to make themselves feel better.
So apparently, it had something to do with Army versus Navy football game back then.
So I literally thought this was a historical thing going back to pilgrims, and that everyone had to buy shit to make themselves feel better.
No.
So it's nothing to do with that.
No.
And like, but isn't that what Thanksgiving is? Like eating shit because of the pilgrims?
Yeah. Thanksgiving
died?
has to do with the pilgrims and the Indians and the exchange of food and stuff and coming together. Yeah, that's Thanksgiving.
I thought they all died because of Oregon's Trail.
Oregon's Trail.
That game where you have to be a pilgrim.
Yeah, but
and
what does that
everyone
got to
dies
do
of
with Thanksgiving,
dysentery.
though?
Well, that tells you the story of Thanksgiving, doesn't it?
I don't
Oregon's
think so.
Trail?
No, Oregon's Trail, that's like when you're going out west for the gold rush. You're going out, and you bring your family with you, and then suddenly they all die one by one. Someone dies by diarrhea, someone dies because of dysentery, someone gets killed by a
dysentery
coyote.
is diarrhea, isn't
whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I never could get to the Oregon thing because my family would always die on the way there through whatever. Wolves would eat them. Bandits would come and kill everybody.
Oh shit, there's breaking news.
What?
Zach Riley just announced that Xbox avatars are being killed off on January 9th, 2025.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Couldn't care less.
I think it's a shame they never did anything with it, but literally nobody wants it. Nobody in the world wants it.
It's weird because I remember them being a big thing during the 360 generation when they introduced them and introduced like the new Xbox experience. They redesigned the dashboard and you had avatars, and people loved their avatars. And you would get clothing brands making things for them. Games would have outfits for them. There'd be even rewards when you would play a game. Some achievement would have a avatar thing tied to it. And I remember even hearing from people internally that some of the bigwigs at Xbox at Microsoft loved avatars. I remember talking to someone, an executive there, be unnamed, and he was like, so and so is about to go to a meeting. I gotta be brushed up on my avatar knowledge because that's all he cares about. Like it was like, yeah. So, but
I think it's a shame.
But when they transitioned to Xbox One, the avatars were kind of sidelined. They weren't really part of, because like in the 360 they were like in your face. You could see your friends in a party, so you would see all the avatars standing around in a party together, and you could see everybody's costumes and stuff. Right? It was forward facing, front facing on the dashboard. You could see it. And it made people want to, make them look good, spend some money. I had a friend, Jez, I'm shitting you not here when I tell you this. I had a friend who spent like $500 to $1,000 on avatar stuff.
He's fucked.
Like he doesn't play Xbox anymore though. All he plays is Pokemon Go, and he owns like 4 phones, and 3 of them just to use Pokemon Go. He has like a cradle that moves back and forth that he puts like one of his phones in so he can get time walked or whatever it is in Pokemon Go's, because the thing is being moved back and forth. He's like crazy about Pokemon Go.
That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I'm just saying, I had
Pokemon
a friend.
Fucking Go.
You see, I'm surrounded by friends. Like I have friends who spent thousands upon thousands of dollars in Neverwinter Nights and Genshin Impact and all this stuff. I have friends who spent thousands of dollars in freaking avatar clothing. Right? That is who I'm surrounding myself with. Some of my friends.
I spent a lot on World of Warcraft microtransactions, I guess.
But I never cared about the avatar stuff. And
yeah, we know, Rand. You only care about one thing, and that's Walking Simulator.
No. The thing is, though, Microsoft has only themselves to blame because when they transitioned to Xbox One and all the dashboard iterations they did, the avatars basically were hidden. What could you do about it? You couldn't see it anymore, so why would people care about it? So they only have themselves to blame for the decline in that. So
Right, I've got an answer about how the frequency.
okay, we got an answer.
And they are gunning for more frequent drops.
Okay, so maybe not every month, maybe every other month.
Maybe not every month, maybe every other month, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not going to be it's not like a dedicated every single month, but they want to get to that point. So yeah, so I expect more frequent drops, I guess.
All right.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, I don't know about avatars. I suppose it's just a product of its time, I guess. But one thing that bugs me about this whole thing is that getting a custom avatar on Xbox is a pain in the ass. You can't upload it from the phone. No, you can upload it from the phone. You can't upload it from PC. So you have to upload it from your mobile app. And then if you want to upload it from Xbox, you have to do jump through all these weird hoops and shit like that. I think it's dumb, man, that there's not more fun little features on Xbox like that. Like Steam has its trading cards. What does PlayStation have? Doesn't PlayStation have like a whole virtual VR home thing, like Second Life? PlayStation Home or whatever it's called?
No, they shut down PlayStation Home a long time ago.
Oh, they did? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Do they have anything like that, though, now?
No, not really. No, they don't have anything like that.
So you could say that Xbox is following PlayStation in that regard, then?
I guess so.
But does anyone care about Steam trading cards and stuff? I do think, like, Xbox could do more to gamify its platform and make it more fun, but I guess avatars just ain't it.
I guess not anymore, at least.
Yeah, not anymore.
We have Achievement. It says, don't you think it makes sense for Sony to take the stand that any multi-platform studio they buy stays multi-platform? Because as of lately, the only exclusives they have been getting are third-party contracts. And Sony has nothing to lose in that scenario. Sony's pretty much setting up the studios, like Square Enix, to fail and kill their franchises. Sony's everything to gain in this circumstance, and it's the developers that lose. I mean, I think we both said, at least I think that if PlayStation did buy FromSoftware, I think they keep them multi-platform. Because that's what the studio is.
I think so too. Purely on the basis of the valuation of the company, they would be doing a disservice to their shareholders if they didn't keep those games multi-platform. Because I don't think any single FromSoftware game would shift people over to change PlayStation to become their primary console. And really, that's what it's about. Making someone buy a PlayStation just for one game is not the goal. That's not the goal. The margins on that ain't great. You might as well just get them where they are, right? Which is why the business has changed so much. Is like making people buy a console for one game is not great margins. It's you might as well not bother. You know, the biggest return on that kind of investment is just literally being where they are, taking your content to them. That's where the biggest returns are, and I think that's why I think they'll keep them multi-platform. And that's why I think Xbox is going to go more multi-platform. That's why I think more PlayStation games are going to show up day one on PC. Next year, I bet, is the year we start seeing more core games from PlayStation hit PC out of the gate. Not just multiplayer either. Well, also Astrobot launched on PC, didn't it? Out of the gate?
No.
Or am I going crazy?
No, it did not.
What am I thinking of then? Horizon did, right?
Horizon
Legos.
Lego Horizon did. Until Dawn did. Concord did. I think the Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster did. Yeah, those games did. But Stellar Blade didn't. Rise of the Ronin didn't. So, yeah. Mike, hey guys, a few things. One, what is the percentage chance Microsoft makes a phone again?
0.0000.
Yeah, 0%.
Two, and it depresses me to say that, but it's 0.
Yeah. 2, y'all watched Ted Lasso on Apple TV, got a free 7-day trial, watched it, and then canceled the trial. Good show, though. Have a good weekend. Thanks for being you. All my friends love Ted Lasso. They've always been trying to get me to watch it, and I just never have.
What's it about?
It's about
Is he a cowboy?
No. It's about I think it's like a soccer.
lasso.
I want to say he's like a soccer coach from the U.S. that goes to the U.K. to coach a soccer team. or an actual football team. I could be wrong. I don't know if he's like a soccer coach from the. I know he's from the U.S. and he comes over to coach this football team, but I don't know. I don't. That's all I really know about it. And people love the show, and Jason Sudeikis is amazing in it, and it's supposed to be wholesome and stuff. People loved the first 2 seasons. I guess the 3rd season wasn't as good. Some people were disappointed in it. So yeah. Cameron says a U.S. football coach coaches a U.S. soccer or UK soccer team. So there you go.
People are mocking me for not knowing that Black Friday was something dumb and not historical. Vollord 666 said, "I should have known that because it was back when America was a British colony." And dude, I know jack shit about history, but they don't really teach that stuff in British school. They only teach World War II. It's like, look how great Britain is, World War II. By the way, we won't talk about the Empire. We won't talk about America. We won't talk about any of that shit. It's only World War II, World War I and World War II. That's all you get. British school. Oh yeah, maybe a bit of Egyptians and Romans and stuff like that. None of the bad stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
We have
Happy Thanksgiving, because I suppose like next time we do this show, it'll be Black Friday proper and not Thanksgiving. So
yes,
happy Thanksgiving to everyone in advance.
Purple Haze 4564 with the 10. He says, "Question: do you guys think Xbox next console will have Steam and the Epic Game Store? Is it possible? Because that would end the console war." And they talked about it. I mean, Phil's mentioned what itch.io and Epic when asked about this.
I think it'll at least have Steam. I think it'll probably have Epic Games as well, but I think it'll at least have Steam. But I also think Microsoft, like, I don't think they want to go too broad. But I also think Microsoft's doing a lot of experimentation right now. Like putting Avowed, for example, putting Avowed on Battle.net is all about figuring out what PC gamers want. Like, is there a future where Microsoft ditches its own Xbox app and moves everyone over to Battle.net? I think it's sure as hell possible. You know, Battle.net has huge monthly active users, but they all play Blizzard games. You know, so like they want to see will people buy single player games through this system? I suppose is what they want to find out. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what stores they do allow on the next Xbox, if indeed we are going down that route.
Yeah, we'll just have to find out. We'll see. Well, yeah. So I think that's end of the show. Talked about everything I wanted to talk about. It is getting late for Jez. We did start an hour later. But next week is Thanksgiving. That's Thursday. But we're going to have a show on Friday, obviously, a week from now, Xbox 2. And we're going to make sure it's on Friday. Because we've been switching days too much. But it's all because of Jez, because he's with family. And they all want to hang out with him, I guess, because he's a cool dude. Which, you know, nobody ever wants to hang out with me, but whatever. Which is fine. I'm fine. So,
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, we've actually got to do it Friday next week because on Saturday, Rand, I'm going to Comic-Con.
Comic-Con? They do Comic-Con over there?
They sure do. It's a franchise, isn't it? So there's some company just licensed it.
So what are you going to see
It's not
there?
like real company.
You got any plans?
I have no
people?
idea. I mean, I'm going with some family, family and friends.
Okay.
Let's have a quick look. And there might be some video game stuff there.
Who's going to the UK Comic-Con? Bristol Comic-Con, UK.
No, it's Birmingham.
Birmingham. In the town of 50, well, they got a Comic-Con.
Oh, we've got Sonny Sulyk, God of War. Was he the little boy?
I think he was Atreus.
Yeah, okay, so we got Atreus is going to be there.
All right. Make sure to get your picture taken with him.
Yeah. Alistair Duncan's going to be there.
Who's that?
Who's God of War, Shadow of Mordor, and the Batman.
Okay.
We've got Andrew Wincott, who's in Baldur's Gate 3. Anthony Howell, who was in Diablo 4, Lies of P, and Elden Ring. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of games I know, but not necessarily performers. That's the sad thing about being I suppose, like a performer in video games. Like they don't get as famous for some reason, generally speaking. as proper, like Christopher Judge is there, God of War,
Yeah.
Kratos, right?
It's Kratos.
There's actually quite a lot of cool ass people there, bro.
All right, well that
Quite a lot of
sounds
cool ass
that
people.
sounds fun. So, yeah, do us a big favor, hit the like button before you leave. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening to this later on podcast apps like iTunes and Spotify, hello, we appreciate you listening. Do us a big favor, give us a star rating, 5 stars, 1 star. Write us a review; it helps out a lot.
Sure does.
Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring the episode. 20% off across all their products and free shipping. Code XB2. Love all the Patreons who support what we do. You can sign up at patreon.com/XB2, 15% off right now. So get it while the beginning's hot. Are we going to try to do something next week, like Xbox 2 Ultimate or something, just to chill before the holidays? We might, depending on Tuesday or Monday, Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Tuesday
what's
or
going
Wednesday,
on.
we'll see, yeah.
But yeah, with that said, hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. Keep it gaming, everybody, and we'll see you later.